Welcome back to the nation's capital, where our movement is thriving, fighting, winning, and dominating Washington like never before. Nobody's ever seen anything like this before. They used to have little smaller crowds here. It's a little bigger. The fraudsters, liars, cheaters, globalists, and deep state bureaucrats are being sent packing. The illegal alien criminals are being sent home. We're draining the swamp and we're restoring government by the people, for the people. For years, Washington was controlled by a sinister group of radical left Marxists, warmongers, and corrupt special interests who drained our wealth, attacked our liberties, obliterated our borders, and sucked our country dry. Not any longer.
Want to get it off your chest? You're in the right place. They accuse this show of being run by boobs. Well, let me tell you about us boobs. We're real and we're spectacular. Want politics and fun sprinkled with a lot of laughs? Heard in every state in the Union and 1,000 cities around the world. We just finished 16 years of broadcast excellence, now in our 17th year. The Dave Weinbaum Show is streaming live all over the world. Donald Trump is proving that just 38 days that he's been the best, smartest, most open president America has even had, much less dreamed of. His picks for his administration are amazingly complementary to his efforts to make America great again, make America healthy again, and make America safe again. They're all on the same page, yet smart enough to know that a broken cabinet holds no clothes. They will speak out and contribute. They won't hide disagreements, and they will play out the options smack dab in front of the journalists who used their podiums to be Trump haters. Just weeks ago, they haven't been depressed by their freedom if they want to debate Trump, his vice president, Elon Musk, and the rest of the cabinet. That's just fine. All that time compared to the extension of not-so-secret Dem hatred against Trump and MAGAs without being honest about Biden's brain and brief appearances and outright contempt Joe had for them. The press should be elated by the access and honesty they're being gifted to since the beginning of our great and magnificent country. The secret to a rich life is to have more beginnings than endings. And when you look at the stars, you have to look up, too.
But on November 5th, we stood up to all the corrupt forces that were destroying America. We took away their power. We took away their confidence. They lost their confidence. You know, do you ever watch? They lost their confidence. Oh, it's so nice to watch. And we took back our country. And we must be doing something right because we've got the highest poll numbers that I've ever had and that any Republican president has ever had. And our approval rating is now the highest ever across all demographics. Rasmussen just came out at 56%. Insider Advantage, 56. RMG Research, 57%. And we have many polls in the mid-60s, one at 71%. We like that, 71. And according to YouGov, a big deal, 70% of Americans believe that what we are doing is right and we are keeping our promises.
All right, we're at the Dave Weinbaum Show. We're starting off on a high note. We've got we got JP here, the producer. We got my lovely bride, Lisa Ann Weinbaum. You look very cute this morning.
Oh, thank you.
Almost like army-like colors.
Yes, very militant.
In honor of the veterans, like your dad was, right?
Yeah, he was.
Right,
yeah.
Yes. And we've got the clips from Rick Henderson out there in Salem, Missouri. Thank you, Rick. And we've got a great guest like Rabbi Moshe Rothschild calling from Israel. John Jeffrey Bradshaw. Tom Haviland. He hasn't been around for a while, but boy, is he now. He's worthy of being a good guest right now. He's got a lot to talk about. And Bill Hardwick, the ace lawyer to the show, one of the ace lawyers to the show, and also a representative. And Jeff Zink, soon to be Assistant Secretary to Robert F. Kennedy. And at HHS, he is going, instead of running for Congress, he's going to be lecturing Congress on what HHS is doing. He's having meetings with Elon Musk and others who want to contribute to his position. He's got an amazing position, and I like to say he's been on the show for about 6 years, 5 years. Really good guest, really good man. A couple other things before we get started. I had a little quicker monologue. I got a couple minutes to talk about it. My grandson, Daxton, 14 years old. He's a wrestler. He's a golfer. He was a football player, and a good football player, and he's very lightweight, believe me. But he took third in the regionals in high school wrestling. He's a freshman, mind you. And so he qualified to go to the state tournament, and the odds were way against him, obviously. He's 14 years old. Every guy he wrestled was 4 years older. All of them were 18 years old. That's a big, big difference. So when he got to his first match, the guy pinned him pretty quickly. And we figured, all right, it's going to be 2 and done. But he wrestled a guy who was really good, apparently, and also 8 or 4 years older than him, and he beat him, and he pinned him. So he had a hope. And then he wrestled against a guy that won the districts, also 18 years old, and he was ahead for a good portion of the match. He lost it in the final seconds. He just wasn't strong enough. And give him a couple years, and I think this kid's going to win some championships. And they had a great representation. I think they got 1 or 2 guys that are going to make it, and maybe even one guy that's going to win. Maybe a couple of them. St. James, Missouri, not a huge school, and this is all of Missouri. That's pretty good.
And that's where I went to school at. That's where I'm from. And when I was in high school, we didn't have a wrestling team. This wrestling program is still very new.
Yeah.
And they're having great success very quickly. That's
amazing.
Awesome.
I mean, that's amazing how many, I think 3 of them might have qualified to go forward. So that's amazing. I wanted to tell you something else, but you know what? We got JJ Bradshaw. No, we got the Rabbi. Why don't Well, JJ used to be the starting. He is the starting guy, but we have to give our friend from Israel because it's going to be Sabbath there very shortly, so he has to get ready for that. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a man who is known for his generosity in the fact that he's a wartime rabbi. He's an author. His book is Wunderbar, and now I'm lost. What the hell's the matter with me? Okay, I get it. I get it now. There he is. Okay. So he collects your dollars to help IDF widows to buy or lease their own homes around other widows with their children for support of each other. And in these circumstances, it's tough. It's tough. I mean, you lose your kid, you lose your husband. These hostage things aren't easily swallowed, and we're going to be talking about that. But please, right now, welcome the second most powerful man in Israel, Moshe Rothschild. Hi, Rabbi. How are you?
Pretty good, Dave. How are you?
I'm good. You're back in Jerusalem?
Efrat, where I lived, south of Jerusalem.
South of Jerusalem, right.
I came back on Monday, and actually my wife was away. She just came back today.
Well, congratulations. You're going to have a real Sabbath today, a real festival.
That's it. Vacation's over.
Vacation's over. Okay, so an agreement has been made between Hamas and Israel that phase 1 of the ceasefire will end with release of 4 remaining phase 1 Gaza hostages with prisoners not released last Saturday. Now, there was a reason they weren't released last Saturday by either Hamas or Israel. What was that?
The reason the hostages weren't released?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Israel held up we were supposed to release 600 terrorists from Israeli jails,
right?
But we were just sick and tired of these ceremonies of them parading either live hostages or dead ones and turning them into some sort of propaganda tool.
They're actually cheering the dead bodies of children.
Yeah, it's like a festival, and they and then they didn't return the body of Shiri Bibas, the mother of the 2 redheaded kids that have been all over the news, and so Israel had said, okay, enough's enough, and they just halted the release of the 600 terrorists, and so.
And I noticed the new negotiator with basically Hamas, with Qatar, I think, doing it, is Ron Dermer.
That's right.
Who's Ron Dermer? I know Ron Dermer, and you know you're a friend of Ron Dermer's.
Smart guy. Yeah. Smart guy, Ron Dermer.
And so he must have turned it around.
Yeah, but we'll see, because now what they're talking about here is they're reporting that the government is planning in 4 to 6 weeks to go back in with a much stronger and larger force. They're saying up to 50,000 soldiers to go into Gaza. The new head of the army, his last name is Zamir, and he said that the previous plan was not enough. It wasn't enough soldiers to really get the job done. So they're saying, 4 to 6 weeks. That
so how does that mesh with the ceasefire? It's the end of a ceasefire, isn't it?
Well, Israel has said that when this first stage ends, which is now, that we are not going to go to stage 2, which meant the end of the war, the permanent end of the war, and the goals have not been met yet, and we need to really go in as strong as possible. And the only way to really do that is to get out all the living hostages, because the fear has always been, killing your own hostages. But look in Lebanon, how quickly we're able to dismantle Hezbollah when we didn't have to worry about hostages. So they're talking now. Wow. I don't know why they're saying this publicly, but they're, although it could be part of the strategy, is that the first stage is going to be a massive bombardment from the sky. But, you're limited when they're holding 200 hostages, 250 hostages, 100 live hostages, but now if we got out most, if not all of the live hostages, then it's less of a, it doesn't tie the hands of the army or the Air Force in the same way. So I think it's going to be different.
Now, going back to 10/7, there's a lot of people who are 10/7/23. There's a lot of people saying that that they went into Gaza to hit Gaza instead of stopping them shortly after they invaded the festival in Israel, in South Israel. Now, I know a lot of people are going to, second guess, but what are your thoughts about that?
What do you mean when we went into Gaza?
Yeah, I think they said that we went into Gaza instead of going straight to the conflict where the guys were flying in on kites and all that stuff.
Oh, well, we actually didn't go into Gaza for 3 weeks or so.
I talk about the Air Force.
Oh, the Air Force, yeah, the Air Force. There's a lot of reports coming out now about it, and the Air Force, they didn't necessarily were aiming at the right targets,
right?
Instead of protecting the settlements and
Exactly.
along the border, they were, they didn't have orders. There was a TV show in Israel called Uvda, which means fact. It's like a 60-minute kind of show. It's supposed to be documentary and so on. And they did one about the Air Force, and these guys were flying blind. They had no orders. They didn't know what they were doing. And you can't operate an army, based on, your friend sending you a text message,
Sure.
We need help, fine. 1 or 2 guys can go, but you can't send the Air Force on a text message. You need the chain of command. And
who sent them up there? Someone had to tell them, hey, you got to get up there.
Yeah, just the problem is that we were so ill prepared, and the enemy took out our communications, and we were blind, and they couldn't see anything, and so it was.
And how did they know what the targets were?
What's that?
How did they know what their targets were?
Yeah, they didn't for hours. They didn't know their targets, and that was a big problem. And they literally could have saved a lot of people.
So tell me more about these Gazans celebrating, and they're Gazans actually. They're celebrating Israeli hostages' deaths. They're not all hardcore.
Yeah, we keep calling them. We keep calling them Hamas. They're not Hamas. They're regular Gazans, regular Palestinians. They're not part of the Hamas army, so to speak. And in fact, it was regular citizens that they were the ones that kidnapped Shiri Bibas and her 2 redheaded sons. Have been all over the news. They were not taken by Hamas guys. They were taken by regular citizens of Gaza. And when we keep saying Hamas kidnapped them, we let them off the hook. When they keep, we have to be very clear that, in my opinion, there's no distinction between civilians and Gazans. The civilians participate. The civilians participate in these great parades and ceremonies when they release dead bodies or hostages, and soldiers, friends of mine, tell me that when they're in Gaza, every house they've gone into, there is stuff. They find Mein Kampf, which is Hitler's book, and they find Hamas paraphernalia in every single apartment, bar none. There are no civilians.
Widespread. You don't have hardly any friends where you live that happen to be Muslims, because that's the religion that you're fighting against, because they want to kill all the Jews.
Yeah,
becoming pretty evident if you're in America, all over the world, kill the Jews.
Before October 7th, we had plenty of Muslims, Palestinians working here. Yeah, working in our communities,
right.
And but we're not living in the same communities. But there are in Jerusalem or in Haifa, there are mixed cities. But even within the mixed cities, people aren't living literally next to each other. They're in areas of the mixed cities.
Right.
Like you have Chinatown in New York, so you have like an area where a lot of Muslims live and stuff. But where we live, no, there's none. But we shop together.
So there has to be a dramatic change in Israel's attitude. Israel wanted to make peace, but it hasn't worked. Okay. So now you have to take another stance. What is that stance?
Yeah. So that's, since October 7th, that is something that we've had to really refine, not only on a national level, on an individual level. I don't, at the risk of being called a racist, but I don't use Arab labor. I won't use Arab drivers, and because I don't know where my money's going. And a lot of these guys, poll after poll shows that the local Arab Israelis even are supporting Hamas. Yeah. They support what happened October 7th. So imagine you're sitting in America and there's a population of people that support 9/11. Do you want to give them jobs? Do you want to give them your money, so they can try to perpetrate another one? I don't think I'm being a racist by saying I don't want to give my money to people that want to kill me, and
there's not just that. Yeah. You don't even know if the people that you hired might not kill you.
I have no idea. And so therefore people are being very, it's changed. It has set the country back 30 years, 40 years.
Oh yeah.
Whatever kind of relationship we had with even Israeli Arabs, people are now extremely suspicious.
And yet you're about to enter even more Abraham Accords.
Right.
Trump is supposed to meet Putin in Saudi Arabia now after Solinsky comes in today and signs an agreement.
Yeah,
allegedly. So how does that mesh that you have now? You're going to create accommodations with even more Arab countries than before, and you got 4 of them already on board.
Yeah, I think you have to differentiate between the local Palestinians versus, say, the UAE or Saudi Arabian countries that are on the periphery. We're not living with them on a day-to-day basis. And the UAE, and I have visited there more than once, it's actually very comfortable as a Jew there. And I feel that that's actually quite a good peace. We have peace with Egypt and Jordan, but it's a very, very cold peace.
Yeah.
And there's high restrictions. Like if I go visit Jordan, I'm not allowed to bring in my tefillin, the phylacteries we wear on our arm to pray. They forbid it. How is that possible? We're at peace with them. Why can't I bring it in? You can't bring kosher food with you. It's like we're supposed to be at peace with these countries.
I thought Muslims were kind of kosher.
Yeah, they have their halal. It's not the same thing. So they make it very difficult, very restrictive for Jews to come into these countries.
Yeah.
But we have peace. But the UAE is different, and the Abraham Accord countries are different.
All right.
It's not perfect, but it's our best chance.
Tell me where the Abraham Accords is going next.
So hopefully Saudi Arabia. That's
all right.
That's big. Saudi Arabia.
What reports do you have on South Syria and South Lebanon?
Okay, so Lebanon right now, is it's been quiet right now, but there are talks about Hamas. I mean, the Hezbollah trying to rebuild there, but Israel hasn't been allowing it. But right now it's pretty quiet in Lebanon at the moment. Yeah.
Why is it important to Jews that when they have a killed soldier and or hostage held by the other side, why is it important for them to get the bodies and bury them? I saw the Bisa ceremonies, and my God, it was just, you got half the country there, I think.
Right, the Bibas family. Yeah.
Bibas.
Look, as Jews, we try to bury someone, as quickly as we possibly can. As the Bible says, you come from dust and you return to dust. And we see that as a kavod, as an honor. That's the Hebrew word, as an honor to be buried. It's a big honor, and it also gives tremendous closure to the family. And you're paying your respects. And the Bibas family became a symbol for everything.
Yes,
everything that's evil in Hamas and everything that's good about Israel. This is a family with, this was the youngest wasn't even a year old. He was 9 months old, I think, when they took him. and the other son was 2, maybe something like that, and the wife, and we found out that they literally strangled these kids to death.
Yes. They actually physically strangled them to death.
Yeah.
How do you not go back there and kill every one of those?
Yeah. And how does anyone not say, okay, this is a society that's completely it's completely what's the word? It's so evil. The banality has reached such a level that we can't even fathom. Just when you think it's terrible, and then you hear something like that. And so the country was so enamored by the Bibas story, and the family, literally tens of thousands of people lined the streets as they took the bodies to burial. And it just signals everything that's wrong.
Sure.
About people that are supporting Hamas, as they're supporting baby killers. That's really what it comes down to.
Sure.
And it was chilling.
And you still have demonstrations going on just yesterday or 2 days ago in colleges here in the United States, protesting that a couple of these people were sent back to their home countries for starting this, and also the fact that these Jews the ones that wanted to counter these meetings, so-called meetings, they weren't allowed in. The school wouldn't let them go in and have their own little presentation.
Yeah, look, these places like Columbia, which is still terrible, they should be completely defunded. They shouldn't get a single penny from the U.S. government or from any public sources, and they're just, and then everyone's going to wonder, when Americans start dying, well, how come? And they're going to be so shocked, right?
Well, it's already happened.
Allow it into your country.
Yeah. Even if you go to the border, and all the people that came in, you've had a bunch of murderers and rapes from these people, and that, I think America, took that under. Even some of the ones that let them in, they still saying it. The dumbasses, they are such dumbasses. It is unconscionable. Let him stay in your house. One of them said he was going to do it, but he didn't do it. And all this. Anyways. Now I'm giving you my rant. I want to hear any of your rants or scoops.
Well, I've given them already.
Huh?
I already given my 2 cents.
Well, I've got. Well, it's amazing. Tell Ron Dermer I say hi, and I want him back on the show. Would you please?
Well, I don't think I can get in touch with him anymore, because now he's a big shot in the government.
I can't believe that he's too busy for you. You're the second. Powerful. He's like the third.
Yeah.
If you could get him to get an interview with me at an airport in Tulsa with the FBI there 10 years ago.
Yeah, but that was his job then, to be an ambassador. His job now is different, and so, like, we got him to come out to Oklahoma, because that's his job, to be an ambassador.
Yeah, right.
To represent the state. But now I don't.
Well, not to talk to me though. You got him to talk to me.
Yeah,
his people didn't want it.
Yeah.
His people were telling me not, and you made that happen. You made it happen, Captain.
Yeah, I did. That's true.
So, other than Dave Weinbaum shows, where can people buy your book and contribute to your cause?
It's on your screen. You can go to that website. You can get a copy of my book,
Secrets of the Hebrew Bible.org.
Yes, you'll be the millionth customer.
Really?
You first have to buy 990,000 books, and then you'll be the millionth customer. And you can go to our website, Israel-Alliance.org, or Facebook.com/Israel Alliance. We'd love to hear from you guys.
What was that? A boxing match? And that was round 2 or round 1?
No, it just means the stock market's opening.
Oh, the stock market. Oh, excuse me. All right. Lisa and I we both went grocery shopping. And this is true. She said, I need sugar. I said, I'm right here, baby. I'm right here. True story, right?
Pretty close, yeah.
No, it was exactly that. Word
Yes.
for word. All right.
I said I think I need honey.
Shabbat shalom, my friend.
Yeah, but then Lisa said, I guess you didn't hear me. I said sugar, not pepper.
Not garlic. Yeah. All right.
All right, guys.
All right. You have a great
Thanks. Thanks,
Bye, everybody.
Here. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Thank you. All right. Well, we're gonna. That's Rabbi Moshe Rothschild. We didn't even applaud for him. What the hell's that?
I got caught.
Okay. Yeah, you got caught up. He's reading the Hebrew book now. Yeah. Ultimate Christian reading the Hebrew book. Well, come on. This is all part of the.
In all seriousness, at some point, I am going to take the time to read this book because I actually want to.
Well, it is an accurate taking of the Jewish Hebrew that God passed to us.
Yep.
Allegedly, according to the rabbi, and I have no reason to doubt it, this language was God's language. That's what he spoke to the Jews in, and that's what they understood.
No, and he made a great point on one of his last visits to Missouri. It's probably been a couple of years ago when he first introduced the book. And what he talked about was, nothing against translations in the Bible, but that's still man's interpretation. This is the exact written word.
Right.
So it's important to understand what the true meaning is behind, because there's different meaning that we may not be catching with our the translation and the Western civilization that we're now in. Words are different, mean different to us. So, and
not all of it is evil. Some of it is. Some of it is a intentional way of telling the story of the Bible and telling the stories of the Bible. Others are just accidents. They just don't get the Hebrew part. So, and we're trying to get it. He's trying to get it all straightened out. That is a great book. Kids should read it. My now 14-year-old granddaughter Lexi has read it and loves it, and very interesting. And just going to give you a couple more messages here. So I don't know if any of you know this, but I go by the name of the one-line philosopher in a lot of places. And the reason is, when I was 43 or so, my father died. Before he died, it was 1992. Before he died, he told me, he says, I could have done so much more with my life. And while I disagreed with him, and I said, you've done plenty, he said to me, he says, no, I could have done much more. And he kind of retired the last couple of years, and he hang out with the guys, and they go into these hotels and they'd steal breakfasts. They go and get the breakfast and run out like a bunch of kids, stuff like that. But he was a funny guy and he was a smart guy. He never finished high school though. Isn't that interesting? So I said to myself, I've been in the McDonald's business for 22 years, 23 years by then. And I says, is this it? Am I going to do the same thing as my father? Am I going to go away someday and just come back and say, well, that's all there is, my friends. And I said that, I've had trouble speaking in front of people. Yes, I know. I stutter a few times here, and it's because I was scared to death to speak in front of people. I was scared to death to do a lot of things, and I wanted to work on that. I wanted to see if I could get out of that fixation of being terrible at anything other than that. And I wasn't a good student. My parents told me I was stupid. My own parents. My mother graduated high school. She told me I was stupid. My father told me I was stupid. So what was I going to do? At a certain point, you listen to your parents and you sort of trust their opinions. So I went and I started, getting into fights in school and stuff, and having a kind of a bad attitude. But then I got involved in sports, and I had an experience, and I've talked about it on the show. I'm not gonna bore you with that, but I had a great
Right.
from bottom to success story. And yes, you're welcome. My wife says thank you.
I said too late.
What do you call it? What do you call it? I'm not saying this to anybody in particular, but what do you call a donkey that counts?
We all know
Smart
this.
ass.
Yeah, we
Smart
all know
ass.
this.
And I wasn't referring to anybody in this room to my right or to my front. Anyways, so now she's gonna get mad. She's gonna get even some way. I know she is. She's got a sword at home that could chop my head off with one flick of the wrist of hers. Anyways,
I would never use that on you, dear.
yeah,
That's a sword for fighting, but not you.
yeah. Hell, I can't even pick up the damn thing.
It's
What the hell's
heavy.
that? It's heavy as hell.
It's heavy.
So anyhow, so I started, and then I started doing a little stand-up comedy, and did about 70 performances there. And I didn't really want to be I just want to see if I could get up there and make people laugh. And it took me a while to understand what that's about. And I did it, and sometimes I was great, other times not so great. But it was an experience that told me that I could do this. At McDonald's, I was elected to two things that you had to, speak, maybe go on a little TV. Terrified to do it. Terrified. But I did it. And then I said, I started thinking, if you're going to do these speeches, they have to be really quick, because I hated doing them. I just didn't want to have that much time to screw up. All right. So I did it, and I get better, and I got better, and I got better. And then I said, you made your speeches so small that you were using little quotes that you're making up. So I started I had quotes and stuff like that. And I started sending it out to places like the National Enquirer, to Forbes, to Reader's Digest. And I got into all of those. At one point in the National Enquirer, I became the most often published writer for about 3 years. My quotes were in there. They were small, they were tiny, but it said Dave Weinbaum and it had my name on it. And it was like, other people weren't getting in that often. So, but they had a big quandary. They had a big something happened at their main headquarters was attacked. They had a problem with the guy who invented it. They don't do that anymore. And then I started getting published in the Reader's Digest, and that was the big one. Forbes too, but Reader's Digest. I was there, and they called me. They called me once, and I said, says, "What can I do for you?" He says, "Well, we might want to write something about you." And I says, "About what? The quotes?" Yeah, well, yeah. And I said, "So how do you know they're my quotes? Did you check it in and check it out and make sure that nobody else wrote this?" He says, "Yeah, you're legit. We know that." And I says, "So let me guess how this goes. You're all sitting around a desk trying to figure out what next month's quotes are going to be, and you're talking about Jesus. You're talking about people with one names like Cher or Montague, and I mean just people that are famous all through history. Napoleon." And you're trying to measure which one you want to pick, and you got one of mine in there too. So sometimes you actually pick me and turn down some of these other people, thousands of great minds, and you pick my quote. Is that right? And they said, "Yeah, that's how it works." I said, "Wow." And then about the year 2000, the year after I had their top quote in Reader's Digest, "The secret to a rich life is to have more beginnings than endings," topping their page on Reader's Digest. About a year later, they kicked me off. I called up. I said, "What's going on?" "Oh, we decided to use more popular people, more well-known people than people like you." And I suspect something. They must have found out by then I was a conservative. And I think that might have had something to do with it. And I'm going to do something a little later and offer them a deal. That's what I've learned from Donald Trump. If you get attacked, find a way to make a deal where both of you can benefit. So I might be making a little phone call to them. Anyhow, for 33 years, I've been writing these quotes and jokes. I got about 50,000 of them. 50,000 of them. And I talked to Grok 3. That's X's top form of intelligence. And, you can ask it anything. And I did. I said, it's like a Cinderella thing. Who's the biggest writer, the most volume of these writers that do quotes and jokes and columns? So they brought up Shakespeare, they brought up King David, Mark Twain, and Seinfeld, who I'd just seen Seinfeld's show in Springfield, Missouri, and it wasn't even close. I surpass whatever they wrote by 20 or 30,000 volume. So I am telling you today, is there any music or anything, that I am the biggest quote writer, quote and joke and column writer in the world. Yeah, I'll take it. Okay, now to really important stuff. Here's a gentleman looking at me like I'm an idiot. And this man can call anybody an idiot and get away with it, even me. And I just want you to understand that this man is 256 years old. He's been paying taxes every month since the revolution. No, it's actually since 1913 when they actually had taxes that you had to pay. So he is not the guy that's 360 years old who still pays his taxes. How about that? He still signs his tax return. I wonder if he's a relative of this man. But he is a guy that he's been with us for a long time. He is the original opening act to the Dave Weinbaum Show. Used to pick up women at Ye Old Tavern in Virginia with George Washington, Ben Franklin, Thomas Jefferson. Please welcome all the way from Rolla, Missouri, John Jeffrey Bradshaw. JJ, how are you?
Thank you, Dave. Well, I'm pretty good. Like I told you last week, you and I are drowning in this stuff. Stuff is flying at us faster than we can cope. So I find myself doing more show prep and trying to weed things out that are not as relevant as other things. So this week I've got a potpourri of things that have flown in my face. Most of them are pretty good, I think. What do you say we start with Doge? Because Elon Musk has been holding the headlines pretty well. Him and his 100 or so wonder kids that are grinding their way through the federal government. By the way, did you notice that Vivek bailed and is going to see about being a governor?
Well, you didn't hear from him for a while, and you wondered what the hell happened.
I think he bailed because he was going to be in the shadow of Elon no matter what happened. And I think the man likes the limelight a little better. But okay, it's fine. I wish you well. Doge, in no particular order, the Biden administration was paying $18 million a month for a rent on a facility that was a migrant overflow facility in Pecos, Texas. Well, first off, $18 million a month sounds a little exorbitant for rent. This place had no one in it. It was a vacant building. That's $215 million a year of your tax money
for nothing
to rent an empty building.
Yeah.
This is the Biden administration underscored. The little email that said,
how many jobs were involved? Did they have a lot of people that were attendants that were there every day?
I'm sure there was maintenance folks there.
I bet you they had people they were paying.
Let's face it, though, Dave, that's just one of the many, many egregious things
Yeah.
that our out of control federal government did. And I wonder who's watching the hen house here? Well, during the Biden administration, apparently no one. How about the little email that went out to federal employees that said, list 5 bullet points of things that you did last week?
Yeah.
Now, in the private sector, that would be a little unusual, but not untoward. In the federal government, oh my God, did you hear the outcry from the federal employees? My God, I've got to justify my job.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we kind of want you to do that. If you were getting your toenails done in a spa, I wouldn't put that down as a bullet point if I was you. But oh my, the outcry over that thing was amazing. Talk about entitled folks. I am due this job. I don't really have to do very much. Send me my paycheck. Okay. Doge has so far got $65 billion, 9 zeros, in the bank. This is not stuff that's been discovered and hasn't yet been collected. This is in the coffers of the federal government.
Wow.
Good for you, boys. USAID, we talked about this a little bit last week, and the hits just keep on coming with this outfit. It just amazes me. USAID had contracted with non-governmental entities to distribute foreign aid on, billions and billions of dollars of foreign aid. And the companies that they did these contracts with, surprise, Dave, kind of left-leaning, kind of connected to the status quo.
No.
No, of course not. Yeah, they did. Doge went on in, looked that over, and canceled 90% of those contracts. Now, some of those were paid in advance. Good luck on getting that money back. But at least they shut them off. And this is a little teaser for something I'm going to talk about in a minute or two that will just amaze you. The State Department. Now, I never thought of the State Department. I never thought much about it, really. They're a bunch of diplomats, bunch of hoity-toity folks. I never gave them much thought. But here within a couple of weeks of being in office, the State Department's cut $60 billion. Billion.
Really?
9 zeros of unnecessary waste. Now, I don't know what it is because they haven't yet published, or at least that I've been able to find.
Is this connected to Musk?
Say that again.
Is this connected to Musk?
Absolutely not. This was our new State Department chief that walked on in, looked at things and said, nope, these things have to go. Musk hasn't, as far as I know, has not investigated the State Department yet. Okay, let's talk about pop culture for a minute. And I put the pop part of that in quotes. Joy Reid. Have you ever watched Joy Reid?
Oh my God. She is
Joy Reid,
the most disgusting example of a person, white or black, I've ever seen.
She is the biggest black bigot that I have seen, at least on network television.
Yeah.
Joy Reid, in a tearful goodbye, got canned. They dropped her.
I was crying with that. It was so
Oh yeah, Dave, I could tell those crocodile tears were real. Rachel Maddow is on the chopping block as well. And the crazy communist bigots on The View are being reviewed.
Well, they're all getting together. They're having these get-togethers with a bunch of people at the table. About 7 or 8 people, and I guess they're throwing everything they got at it, and they can't wait. I mean, they're getting anxious to be on there, so they can get their vile stuff out against Trump.
How would you like to be a guest on The View?
Me?
Yeah, good conservative Jewish man.
Well, I do it.
Yeah,
you want to
actually,
come
I would too. I would too, but I'd probably have to chainsaw the whole bunch of them. But yeah, I'd do it too. But if you and I can only tolerate a few minutes of this garbage at a time. I really have a short fuse when it comes to that nonsense. But
well, I'd have a short fuse, and I'd be saying things they wouldn't like, nor would their audience. I don't care. Right now, somebody's listening to lots of people listening to me that hate my guts. For what reason?
Well, I'm not one
whatever.
Of them.
They all have reasons,
I'm not one of them.
Well,
I don't hate your guts, and B, I don't listen.
Wait a minute, you do listen to the show.
Yeah,
I know.
actually, I do.
You do.
The Epstein files. Now, with much fanfare, Pam Bondi said we're going to release all of this stuff at the direction of POTUS. And part of it has been released, but if you look at what dropped out of there, all of that stuff was public knowledge to begin with.
Yeah, right.
It's been, gosh, you can buy a copy of his plane logs on Amazon, for Pete's sake.
Well,
Pam Bondi
why did that happen?
Pam Bondi then came back and said, oh, by the way, the FBI New York office has withheld a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And she demanded through her FBI director that stuff be provided to her. You can bet the shredders in New York were running full time right after that. The FBI put a whole lot of this stuff aside and hoped that nobody would ever see it, because there are names on there and dates that look pretty bad for Republicans and Democrats both, the power brokers, if you will, of our country. The last that I heard, which was about 7 o'clock this morning, is that is being sent to her by courier.
Yeah, I understand it's supposed to be 8 o'clock New York time, so it's got to be pretty close.
Yeah.
Right.
We'll see how much of this gets redacted.
That's a little shocking, though. That's a sign that there's a real problem at the FBI that Kash Patel has to take. Kash Patel and Bongino now are going to have to take care of.
And they're going to. I can't think of a better pair of people to work on this problem.
Dan Bongino, he's passing up millions of dollars a year. He's going to get paid $200,000 a year to be the assistant FBI director.
I would suggest that this is a good pick to take care of this. And we'll see how much of this actually comes out redacted. I suspect there's tremendous pressure on all involved to keep this quiet because of the names that are on that list.
Why?
Well, because the names that are on that list are guilty of pedophilia.
This is what they promised this now. And this is a faux pas on Bondi and Trump, because they promised the American public they're going to do this. So, and they're all going to say, well, you got cash there. They're all going to say that, that. Yeah, if he couldn't get it stopped, then what's wrong with him? You see?
I think they're going to release this stuff. I think they're going to release this stuff. Phase 1 happened the other day. Phase 2 is soon to come. We'll see. I've been very curious how many disgusting hominid creatures are on Epstein's list and in his little black book. And notice that Ghislaine Maxwell absolutely refused to talk to anybody about this. She's sitting in prison.
Yeah.
Because she wouldn't make it.
Probably could have copped a plea and got out of there. But I tell you what, I don't know how safe she is in prison. It's like Puff Daddy now. He's out in a similar situation. I don't know whether he got out of jail or not, but there's a lot of accusations about him too. So now it's not your liberal friends can't protect you anymore. That's
I'm sure there's a bunch of liberals that are very much worried about that.
Oh, sure.
Let's talk about POTUS for a minute.
Okay.
We had a little cabinet meeting the other day, and surprise, surprise, 2 things happened. Number 1, there was a serious prayer said at the beginning of that meeting.
I saw that.
Did not happen under 8 years of Obama, did not happen under 4 years of Joe Biden. And here comes Donald Trump, maybe recently converted due to an ear that got shot. We don't know. But said a prayer. Good for you. Good for you. Thank you. The other thing was there was a whole lot of reporters in there, and cabinet meetings are generally not reporter-friendly operations. They're done in private because a lot of things get said there.
Do you remember any time when a cabinet meeting was visited for the whole time by the press?
No,
I don't.
This is the first. It's never happened. Now, what
they're asking
ordinarily
questions,
happens,
maybe to witness it, but they're asking questions and they're getting answers on the spot from Elon Musk,
yes,
the president, from other members of the cabinet.
hasn't ever happened in this country.
That's incredible.
What's pretty neat about that was, well, the way business as usual was conducted, cabinet meetings would be done in private around a big conference table. And then the individuals that were involved would go out and talk to the press and leak whatever was discussed in there. Speaking of leaking, if you recall, Tom Homan said, we had our plans leaked for a fairly major invasion of some cartel folks and some illegals. And Tom Homan a few weeks ago said, we're going to find these folks. Pam Bondi has found them.
Good.
And is in the process of firing them. And right after, Kash Patel will be in the process of prosecuting them.
Wait a minute. Were these people, were they migrants or were they working for ICE?
No. FBI and Department of Homeland Security folks. What I can ascertain. So these were insiders that leaked details to the press who published that.
Wow.
Homan, and well, you remember that. That was 2 weeks ago.
I'm thinking of another one where they were telling people, there were some people outing ICE agents. This was more recent. And they were giving out home addresses and wives' names and things like that.
Different situation. But
okay.
you know, in the old FBI, and the old Homeland Security, the folks that leaked that would probably have been promoted. At the minimum, would have this swept under the carpet, the evidence never to be seen. In what I consider to be record time for a relatively slow-moving operation like the FBI has been the last 40 or so years, these guys found these folks through emails and other methods that they did not mention. Folks had to go through a polygraph exam, read that yesterday, which is routine in high security situations. And they found these folks. Now, in this country, you are innocent until proven guilty, but I'll bet you a nickel, Dave, that Patel and company have got plenty of evidence to convict. And I think they will make an example out of these people. Homan, I'm sure, is applauding right now because this put his guys at risk. When the bad guys are prepared for you, you got to figure you're going to walk into an ambush.
Sure.
So there is things happening at the FBI, Department of Justice, Homeland Security, much of which I'm sure we don't know a darn thing about, but there are good things happening there. And there is some transparency there that is refreshing after years and years of opaque federal three-letter organizations that wouldn't give you the time of day, that claim it's classified. That same POTUS, well, as long as we're talking about POTUS, Solinsky's mineral deal.
Yeah.
Now, the Biden cabal shoved money into Ukraine right, left, and upside down.
$350 billion.
A lot of it we can't account for. I'm curious how much of that went back into Joe Biden's pocket. But Trump, being that he's a hell of a negotiator, going to get some mineral rights.
Oh, Trump. Right.
Yeah. And what that does as far as foreign policy is the following. I think he's going to agree to, when the truce is signed and there's no longer war going on, he's going to buy minerals from Russia and Ukraine.
Yeah.
That will give us a presence, at least in Ukraine and possibly in Russia, which would make further warfare almost impossible, practically impossible. You do not poke the sleeping bear. So Trump, pretty sneaky guy, and he's a pretty good negotiator. I think that not only is this mineral deal going to be good for the United States, I think it's going to be good for peace in that part of the country.
Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. There's no losers, and the guy who ought to be a loser is Putin, because he started the war, even though Biden practically urged him to do it for some
Biden
reason.
okayed it.
Yeah, but
and let's not forget the Crimea. Prior to that, previous administration,
that was also Biden and
Obama.
Absolutely.
Took over the Crimea and didn't even make the network news. So I think there are big changes going on there. I think we're a country that has gone from a negative foreign policy under Obama and Biden. Our foreign policy was a disaster, to a rather strong foreign policy with Donald Trump as the helm. And he has put people in place that will actually take care of his agenda, that will push it to its limit.
You forgot one important thing. You might have been coming up to it, but I'm coming up to time, and I got to do some commercials. But Comey is being investigated.
Isn't that good?
The head of the FBI, Comey, is being investigated by Bondi about the 2016 election, not as part of the FBI, but him doing it on his own.
Yeah, he ran an off-the-books operation.
Yeah.
Didn't even put it in the FBI computer system.
I mean, this goes back probably to 2015.
James is going to have some serious legal problems, I think, in the near future. Good. I hope it bankrupts him.
Oh, my God. And you know what? I'd love to see him give up people like Strzok and Page and all about the illegal things they were doing, too. These are FBI agents as well.
The rats are going to turn on each other at some point if there's a big enough deterrent. If you're facing serious prison time, sure, you're going to roll on your buddies. Hell yes. I got a parting shot for you, Dave, and it makes me chuckle every time I think of it. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
If you recall, for the last few decades, the White House Correspondents Association, which is essentially the big four of the print media and video media, have selected who gets to come into the press briefings. And not to be surprising at all, the little guys always got pinched out. The Newsmax, the others that were the up and coming, the folks that actually did print facts. Yes. So the White House, through their spokesperson, their spokeslady, Reuters and the Huffington Post are out. The AP, mostly out.
How about the New York Times?
They admitted Newsmax and Blaze, which are two of the more level-headed news organizations. And the White House is going to pick and choose who they allow in there. Well, of course, these network news people are going crazy over this. First Amendment rights, you guys are limiting us because we disagree with your policies. No, we're limiting you because you won't print the news. You print some leftist garbage opinion and claim that it's fact.
Yeah.
It is so refreshing. And I chuckled when I read that and said, it's about damn time that something like this got done. And that's my parting shot for today, Dave. That's all I got.
Hey, listen, let me get you some of these comments, because some of them are pertaining to you, I think.
Oh, really?
Let's see. What do you got? Rico Camino, a friend of Rick Henderson's. He says, good morning, Rico. Patricia Odin Maxwell, sounding good, looking good. Go team.
Good morning, Pastor Pat.
Good morning. All right. Andrea Schrum, King James altered the Bible to reflect his agenda. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Joseph Dalton, good morning, y'all. I think he's trying to get my southernness up,
See you March 6th,
Danny Mayer Jr., Republicans are innocent. They never do bad. Really? You ever hear of a rhino? Okay.
Yeah.
I think he's being
facetious?
Yeah.
Okay, well.
Living in idiocracy was his next comment. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So living in idiocracy.
Yep.
As I call the liberals, I call them Libyans. Okay. You have yours, I have mine. John Jeffrey Bradshaw, Rabbi Moshe, briefly mentioned 50,000 plus troops on the Gazan border, waiting for Hamas to break the ceasefire as predicted on this show weeks ago. Abso-darn-lutely. And you are listening to the show. There's proof right there. Andrea Shrum, good morning, Patriots. Good morning, Sharon Reed. Good morning. Good morning to you, Sharon. Sharon. Andrea Shrum worked in my hometown hospital for 38 years. At every employee evaluation, they would ask us to evaluate ourselves in the areas of continuing education, job performance, and future goals. It is a routine when you have a real job that you show up for each day and punch a time clock. Punch a time clock. There you go. All right, my friend. And Patricia Oden Jones, always great, JJ.
Thank you, Pastor Pat.
Yeah, all right. All right, my friend. Thank you so much for being the opening act. Still the opening act, even though you're not opening today, but you will be soon again. Let's hear it for John Jeffrey Bradshaw. You have a great weekend, and I guess I'll be seeing you next week sometime. Right?
It has been my pleasure. Talk to you Friday. Bye-bye.
All right, buddy. Bye-bye. Hey, wait, we got to make an announcement because we're going to be on Thursday. The show's going to be on
next
Thursday.
week, yeah, and we'll have several reminders out there at the end of the show and all that to make sure everybody catches that. Yeah,
and he thinks it's Friday, so wow,
we'll have to make sure he's aware. Yep.
Well, he says he listens to the show. I don't think you heard that though. All right, he's probably going out and getting a drink or something like that. You know, having he's going to rest himself. You know, this is a guy that gets on TikTok. For my show as John Jeffrey Bradshaw, and he's about my age. We're in our 70s, and he's out there in TikTok land. That's supposed to be the younger people. He's got like 30,000. Well, probably if you combine them all, he's got about 40,000 people that liked his appearance on this show. Okay, I mean you've even had some kickback. You don't do that much in terms of contributing, but you've been on some of these TikToks too. And the wording wasn't nice, but I don't want to go over it here. No,
figure. I'm used to that.
I'm kidding. But there's even Chris Adamo. He's got about 10,000 people admiring him. These guys could go as twins almost. Okay, maybe I could go with them as twins. All right. It's kind of interesting to see that these young people, not all of them are liberals, libs of TikTok. They have that, but you know what? These people are commenting like they're conservatives. I think we're growing into a period where kids are beginning to see stuff and understand them better than they did when they were littler. All right, because now they're coming out of these forced absences from schools and stay home and stuff like that, and they know it's not. They know that wasn't as good as going to school, and it sounds like it's cool because you get to do what you want to do, probably because they're certainly not sitting home doing homework every day, right, Lisa?
No.
How do you know?
Well, I just know,
Just know
what Sarah's girls do.
Yeah. Well, they're going to school though.
Well,
they're doing well.
But they had a couple weeks off.
Oh yeah.
And
it
was
crazy.
A fight getting them to do homework away from school.
I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't want to.
Well, I wouldn't want to either. I didn't like doing homework when I was in school.
Exactly, but you have to.
I was not a good student. Like I say, I'm keep on learning. Okay, it's like I tell the managers in my store. I tell everybody, we should try to do a little better every week, every day. Try to do a little better. You're not going to always be there, but if you try to not make the same mistakes you made the day before, you're going to get better. Does that make sense? Yeah.
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 And I mean, I love all the guests that we have, but especially since he hasn't been on for a while, I'm really excited to see what Thomas Haviland has to say because ever since he's been off the show, everything that's come out has done nothing but back up the information that he's been given every time that he's made an appearance on this show in the past.
Oh yeah. I mean, he's going to be a great guest, and you know what? He slides right up into Jeff Zink slot. Of course, he's got to skip. We have to skip a slot there with Bill Hardwick, but still, Zink and him are going to have to get some time together. Zink at HHS is going to need help on these white fibrous veins that people have got and are still getting. Some people who took the shot years ago, they are still vulnerable to this. They're still vulnerable to the diseases that came from these shots. The shots, they were supposed to cure COVID.
I have heard in some people that is starting to diminish their natural immunity.
Yeah.
Where the immunity is turning on itself.
Yeah.
And so I kind of wanted to ask him about that if he's seeing
Sure.
that happen, because, you know, once your immunity is gone,
he's got a lot. He's got a bunch of charts. He has charted this out with funeral homes of all places. You know, have you seen an uprise when he did his first ones in these white fibrous veins? And there was a remarkable amount, and that codified the CDS investigations into it, with the Vayers report reporting all of a sudden there's a huge amount of diseases in 2020, 2021 that they didn't have with any other virus, you know?
And not to forget that the guy that passed along all this medical advice to everybody during that period of time had to be pardoned by the previous administration before he left office.
But you know what? It ain't going to work.
No.
Because if you're dealing with mass murders, as did Fauci and some of these other doctors, you don't get to have a pardon. They're sweating. They must be sweating like crazy. All right, listen. Let's do a couple of commercial. No, a couple of clips, and then go right into commercial. And we'll be right back with the Dave Weinbaum Show. We got, as I said, 9:30. We're going to have Thomas Haviland, and I mean it's going to be a really great show. I feel good about it already. Thank you so much. I'll be back. Don't touch the dial.
They loved men playing in women's sports, open borders, little things like that. But don't tell them. Don't tell them. Keep it quiet. We'll tell them about a week before the next election. Now keep it quiet. Let them think it's a great thing what they're doing. You saw Maine yesterday, right? The governor of Maine. She's fighting to keep men in women's sports. You ever see what happens to a woman when a woman boxes a man who transitioned to womanhood? Did you ever see what happens? It's not pretty. It's not pretty. Let her do that fight. Let them all do that fight. Because I think that's about a 90-10 issue, and I can't figure out who the 10% are. 77 million, and it's actually much more than that, because despite that, they cheated like hell. It was just too big to rig. It was too big to rig. 77 million. Remember, you used to go, I said, look, we're leading in the polls by a lot. Don't believe the polls. Just go and vote. You got to vote. We got to make it too big to rig. And they tried, but it was too big to rig. One of the great statements. We love it because everybody went and voted. We fought through hell together, but in the end, we achieved the great liberation of America. We're liberating our country right now. We're doing all these things that you're reading about. We're liberating our country. I first spoke to this gathering 14 years ago, and I won your straw poll. I didn't know anything about a straw poll. They took this big straw poll, and I won by like 27 points. With the help of so many incredible supporters here today, we're going to forge a new and lasting political majority that will drive American politics for generations to come. I think we're going to do fantastically well in the midterms. You know, in theory, the one that wins the presidency, does not do well in the midterms, but I think this is going to be a change. We're at a level, I don't think we've been at this level maybe ever as the Republican Party. We're a bigger, better, stronger party than ever before. More people in our party than ever before. But the people have given us a resounding mandate for dramatic change in Washington, and we are going to deliver it. We're going to use it, and we're going to make America great again by using it. So it's going to be something. But think of it, at the presidential level, we won the popular vote by millions and millions of votes. We swept all 7 swing states, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, all by great margins. We won 85% of all of the counties in America. That means that map was red. Did you ever see the map? Did you see the certified map? Where is it? I want to see a certified map. It's all red. You can hardly find the blue. Think of this. They won 525 counties, and we won 2,600 counties. It's the biggest margin ever recorded.
Your home is your castle. You don't need unwanted hassle. Don't let those creatures move in to stay. Let us protect your investments. That's what we're all about. Plank Termite and Pest Control will save the day. Plank is locally owned and family operated right here in Raleigh, a Google preferred business. Our customer service and your satisfaction is our #1 goal. So call Plank today at 368-3333. Plank Termite and Pest Control will save the day.
Honey, what are you doing?
What does it look like I'm doing?
It looks like you're filling up a swimming pool.
Yep, I'm filling up a swimming pool.
In our living room?
How else am I going to watch the game and stay cool?
If your AC is on the fritz, call Hartley's Climate Control. Hartley's is the area's best in HVAC repairs, installs, and maintenance. Knowledgeable, honest, and dependable. Serving Raleigh and the surrounding areas for commercial or residential needs. Hartley's Climate Control. Community born, community raised, community serving.
Call Hartley's Climate Control today at 573-368-3163.
Never be too coy to tell your friends and family about koi sushi and hibachi. Celebrate the best Chinese-Japanese restaurant in the Midwest. Call 573-426-5551 to make a reservation or order takeout. Locally owned, 1808 North Bishop, Raleigh, Missouri.
We can sum up McDonald's new crispy chicken sandwich in one word. Crispy, but also juicy and tender. Okay, it's crispy, juicy, tender, all one word. But then, also pickle. Oh, and potato bun, which is 2 words. Okay, we can't sum up our new crispy chicken sandwich in one word, so you'll just have to try it to understand it. Order ahead on the McDonald's app at participating McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Merrill's Quarry and Asphalt, 40 years serving cities, counties, and everyday businesses with driveways for people who live and work in our little piece of heaven right smack dab in the middle of America. Call 573-578-9101 for your free estimate of rocking, rolling, paving, driveways, sealing, and striping too. That's 573-578-9101 for your free estimate.
Your home is your castle. You don't need unwanted hassle. Don't let those creatures move in to stay. Let us protect your investments. That's what we're all about. Plank Termite and Pest Control will save the day. Plank is locally owned and family operated right here in Raleigh, a Google preferred business. Our customer service and your satisfaction is our #1 goal. So call Plank today at 368-3333. Plank Termite and Pest Control will save the day.
At your locally owned Price Chopper, our standards are high because we know yours are. See for yourself what an incredible fresh selection of grocery items we have in store. Talk to our expert meat associates about what you're looking for. They're happy to meet any special requests like custom cuts, or see our expert produce associates on how to pick out the best fruits and vegetables. Quality in the deli means fresh, full flavor, and always delicious. If you're craving fresh baked goodness, we have that too. You can expect the best selection and the best value while interacting with our friendly and knowledgeable employees. You can find what you're looking for fast and easily at the best prices at Price Chopper Fresh Savings every day. A-Car Real Estate, where experience matters. 532 million sold since 2003, the #1 sales volume in Phelps County. As a client for decades, I can say they are the best in mid-Missouri. Call 573-368-7355. That's 573-368-7355 for the best real estate experience you'll ever have. Gotta reach 'em, see it right now. Insurance going up like crazy? Daniel and Henry Insurance is one of the largest private insurance companies in the world. Richard Boyette, 314-444-5011. He's my guy at Daniel and Henry for 10 years. Business or personal, call Richard at 314-444-5011. He's the best.
At Town & Country Bank, we've got all the perks of a national bank, like online banking, quick loan approval, and you can deposit your check from your phone. But that's not why our customers love us. They love us because we still offer hometown customer service. Stop by one of our 2 Rolla locations and let our friendly team remind you how special hometown banking can be. We're locally owned and we'll take the time to understand your needs. Smart, friendly solutions. Town & Country Bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Okay, this has been a long time coming, and this gentleman, I lost his phone number somehow, and I got his phone number back by Joanna Lieb, and he's got a huge amount to cover. He I believe he was in the Air Force. Is that correct? And he refused the pandemic vax, and he was punished for it. Now resurrected, he did a lot of research. More so than anyone ever did on the vaccines, and he came up with an interesting way to research things. And he's here now to pick up where he started, even though he's been off the show for a while. I just couldn't find the guy. Tell us, and this is well, let's give a round of applause for Tom Haviland. Okay, tell us your new stats. If you don't mind, after you give us a brief history on how you got here.
And Tom, I wanted to let you know that you've got your microphone muted, so you need to unmute on your end.
Thanks, JP. Yeah, JP and Dave, thanks for having me back on the show again. You know, I love you guys are freedom fighters, and medical freedom is one of the things we're still fighting for. And one of the reasons why, Dave, is embalmers all over the world are still seeing these unusual white fibrous clots in their corpses. Take a look at that. Isn't that horrible? Yeah, the embalmers have never seen these before the years of COVID or the vaccines, but now they're seeing them in a significant number of their corpses. And if that's not enough, I got another sample for you, Dave. Look at that.
Oh my God!
That's a 5.5 inch long clot, about a 1/2 inch wide, pulled out of the abdominal aorta.
Normal people, right? You don't see this. What do you see in normal people?
In normal people, prior to the pandemic, you would only see 2 types of clots. Dark grape jelly clots. They look just like grape jelly and they dissolve easily in your hands. Yeah. Or they'd see small, what's called chicken fat clots, which are yellowish in color, very small, and they tear very easily. Much different than these large white fibrous clots that embalmers with 20 or 30 years of experience had never seen before, David, until the years of the pandemic and the vaccines. Wow. So I've been running surveys for the last 3 years, you know, and I came on the show about a year ago, and we talked about the results, I think, of my second survey. And now I just completed a third embalmer survey in December, and the results are just as shocking. These things are not going away, Dave.
Well, these people have so many people took these shots like 4 or 5 years ago, and
that's what's really scary, isn't it? You would think these things would start to dwindle by now, and I was hoping they would. In my latest survey, they've actually going up in percentage, which is a bad news for humanity.
Is there any cure for these things? Have they studied how you get rid of it?
Yeah, Embalmer Richard Hirschman, who was featured in that Died Suddenly movie, and myself, we're in contact with a team of scientists, and Richard's been sending them samples that have been analyzed in university labs. The university people analyzing them are doing it on the lowdown because they know that if they mention their names, they're going to lose their funding, lose their grant status. So they're doing it on the sly. But they have found they have good information, good analysis to show that these clots are being formed from the spike protein, either from the virus in smaller quantities or from the vaccines in much larger quantities. They get into our bloodstream and they do damage to what's called the endothelial lining, the inner walls of our blood vessels. And then that the spike protein is combining actually with a natural protein that our body produces called fibrinogen. It's in a liquid state in our plasma, and then it normally converts to a solid state, and it's white when a clot is formed normally. But what instead of the fibrinogen converting into fibrin, it's converting into this bizarre rubbery polymer instead, because it's combining with both the spike protein from the vaccine and the phospholipid nanoparticles that deliver the mRNA to your body cells. So it's just been a disaster.
So was it a mistake to call this an emergency without testing it?
Absolutely. These mRNA products with their lipid nanoparticle delivery system, Dave, were not ready for prime time. They never should have been given to the human population. And, 5.5 billion people on the planet got at least one of these jabs out of the 8 billion people. So about 2/3 of the planet has taken at least one of these jabs.
Well, I'm gonna mention you to. Now I've got a guy on the show coming on. His name is Jeff Zink. He is shortly going to be the HHS Assistant Secretary to Robert RFK Jr. His name is Jeff Zink. He's been a good friend of mine for 5-6 years, and he's an expert in that field as well. I know this guy is going to want to talk to you. Okay.
Well, I think he will, Dave, because in my latest survey that I just completed in December, 83% of the embalmers, 250 of the 301 that responded to the survey, are still seeing the white fibrous clots, and they're seeing them in a shocking average of 27% of their corpses. 1 out of every 4 corpses has these white fibrous clots in them, Dave.
So, what are people dying from when they come to the people that are going to bury them?
Obviously, strokes and heart attacks, right? These things are
heart attacks.
Yeah,
they're not connected. They don't connect them to the pandemic. They don't.
Right. Yeah.
They don't connect them to the shots.
Exactly. A lot of the death certificates will just say stroke or heart attack, right? Exactly. Thrombosis.
And that was happening for a while there. It was the opposite. You wanted to scare people to get the shots by telling them how dangerous this was not to have the shots. And it turns out the opposite.
Yeah. And not only are they going up in number, Dave.
It's not worse than the shots.
Yeah. And not only are they going up in number, Dave, also, they're seeing these strokes and heart attacks occurring in younger age groups, right? People between 36 to 50-year-old, which you typically don't see strokes and heart attacks. Usually you don't have a stroke or heart attack until you're in your late 50s, early 60s at the earliest. But, in fact, like Edward Dowd, who has been looking at this from a totally different angle, the insurance disability and death data has seen a tremendous increase in death and disability in that age group of 36 to 50-year-olds. And it all started in the third quarter of 2021 when the vaccines were mandated on most of the public. Joe Biden tried to mandate it even on companies that had 100 or more employees. That eventually got shot down by the Supreme Court, but a lot of companies preemptively made their employees take the shots. So it's
you had a personal situation, your own self with the military. Is that right?
Yeah, I already retired. Did 20 years Air Force, retired as a major, was on my 16th year, Dave, as a defense contractor working at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And then I decided not to take the shot, and I was fired from my $167,000 a year job as an electrical engineer at the base for refusing to take the jab. and shaming an Air Force 3-star general on the way out.
Well, can you, Trump has signed an order that anybody fired from the military for this should be able to get their money back and their job back. Not that you might not want your job at this point, but still, you got some money coming to you. And I'm about to get my law degree in a couple of months. I could come, maybe help you out. But I can certainly refer you to some good lawyers.
I'm not worried about that for myself. I actually am enjoying my retirement, and it gave me time to do these surveys, which it actually was useful for mankind.
Where did you come up with doing these surveys of these burial places?
Yeah, well, I watched the movie Died Suddenly. That was premiered in November 2022. Sure. And in that movie, an embalmer from the state of Indiana was lecturing at an Ohio Embalmers Association conference in Columbus, Ohio, showed the photos of these clots, these unusual clots, to the entire room of 100 embalmers. And he asked them, are you seeing these same clots? And he said in the movie, all 100 embalmers raised their hands, yes. So then I called the Ohio Embalmers Association the very next day after I watched the movie and verified with their now president, Mr. Woody Wilson, who runs a funeral home up in Marysville, Ohio, about an hour north of where I live in Dayton. And he does his own embalming. A lot of funeral directors do their own embalming. Woody said to me, Tom, I'm seeing the white fibrous clots too. So as soon as he told me, I said, now I have a well-respected president of a embalmer association saying that he's seeing them. So I am going to do a survey of, not just the U.S., but of Canada, UK, Australia, and New Zealand to see how prevalent these things were. And that's when I got these shocking results, Dave. Like I said, currently they're seeing these things in 1 out of every 4 corpses.
So now there's plenty of doctors out here. There's plenty of people that say they read all the stuff coming out of current news and the New England Journal of Medicine and things like that, as my ex-doctor told me. And these guys somehow fail to realize that the VAERS report, which is a CDS report that goes in the New England Journal of Medicine, is there for them to see, and yet they don't connect the two somehow. My doctor said, read the whole New England Journal of Medicine, so I put it in a search with the shots and the VAERS report, and the VAERS report is in there. So these doctors who claim they read all this material, either they're lying or they're stupid. You can't get away from one of those.
And the CDC.
I told my doctor when finally he says, "Oh yeah, I saw that," and you're sitting there telling me to get a shot that the evidence shows that this shot can be very dangerous. Maybe not proof yet, but can be very dangerous. You're fired. And he was my doctor for 20.
You did the right thing, Dave. In fact, the CDC had 2 systems. They had another one called VSafe, which was a downloadable app that people could download on their smartphones to talk about their vaccine experience. And 10 million Americans did download that app. And of those, Dave, 8% of them, 800,000 of the 10 million, had a severe adverse event that was bad enough they either had to go to the emergency room, urgent care, or schedule a doctor's appointment. So
now how much of this pandemic thing was actually the flu? Because it seemed to me that the pandemic, the most positive thing about it was that the flu seemed to disappear.
Well, I did have a friend in 2020, the year that we had COVID but no vaccines yet, who had developed a blood clot in his arm from the virus itself. So I do believe the virus itself can be dangerous, but to a much lesser extent. As we know, the virus and the vaccine both have one thing in common, Dave. They both have a spike protein. There's a spike protein on the surface of the virus. And then the purpose of the mRNA in the vaccine was to produce the spike protein. However, that all went haywire, right? The shot was supposed to stay in your deltoid muscle in your upper arm, produce just enough of the spike protein to elicit an immune response from your immune system, and then be gone in just 2 days to a week. The mRNA was supposed to leave your body.
Yeah, that's what we heard on television. That's what Fauci told us. That's what Siegel told us on Fox News.
But that's not what happened at all, is it?
And you're done.
Yeah, the lipid nanoparticles carry that vaccine all over your body, that mRNA, and it set up shop, and your whole body became a spike protein factory producing the spike protein, which is damaging. And instead of doing it for just a couple of days a week, it's been known to do it for months at a time. In fact, a recent paper just came out of Yale, said they found the spike circulating 700 days after the person's last vaccine. 700 days. So Dr. Peter McCall is afraid there is no off switch. Yeah. So for the people that have taken the vaccine, Dr. McCall has a recommended protocol that people can take of nattokinase, bromelain, and curcumin to help clear your body of the spike protein. And for people that, if there is no off switch to the production of it, people may have to take that forever in order to detox their body of the spike protein. Because if you don't detox yourself and the spike protein builds up, that's what can form these things. And once these things form, vascular surgeons, endovascular specialists, and cardiologists actually have to go in and remove them with flexible catheters. I've been in touch with an endovascular specialist, Dave, who's admitted to me that he's been pulling these same white fibrous clots out of living people for the last 4 years. So this is a serious issue.
So if they can take them out and actually cure it, or just do it temporarily till they grow back.
Just temporarily, unless you can clear your body of the spike protein, right? That's the key. But what's
the financial thing about this? Fauci, he went to the Wuhan lab, got them $40 million somehow, and he's claiming, he's one of those guys claiming that you take the stuff once and you're done. I know they're all getting money off of the pharma companies, and these doctors and hospitals are getting paid to refer people to the hospitals and to the doctors. They're getting their cut. This is a real scam, and it's mass murder.
And they don't want to admit, you're right, Dave, they do not want to admit that they made a mistake in pushing these vaccines on the public. In fact, in running my surveys with both the embalmers and funeral director associations and with cath lab workers and people that work vascular surgery societies, there's this hush-hushness still. Year 4 into this, there's still this quietness. And several of the questions I asked this year kind of delved into that topic. In this year's survey that I did, I asked the embalmers, hey, like I said, 83% of them said they were indeed seeing the white fibrous clots. But when I asked them, do you talk to other embalmers about that? About 2/3 of them say, yeah, I do talk to other embalmers about that. And they do say they're seeing the clots. It was about 60% said they're doing that. But there was another 20% that said, the other embalmers say they're not seeing the clots. And then there was a 20% that said, we don't talk about this. We don't. So what are they afraid of? Why do they not want to talk about it? And only about 20% of the funeral director associations talk about this at their annual meetings in person or in their monthly or quarterly newsletters, even though this is a brand new phenomenon. And it's frustrating the embalmers because it's lengthened the time of doing embalming from about an hour and a half it used to be before COVID came around and the vaccines to now about 2.5 hours when they find a body that's riddled with these clots. So it's frustrating them, and I know it's hurting them, and they have to take more time to do this. So it's very
well. It seems like our government doesn't understand this yet. You still got doctors up there who are saying, "Oh, it was real, and we need the." I mean, even a couple of Republican senators were saying that to Kennedy and stuff like that, and Kennedy showed his doubts about the thing, and it almost got him kicked off as HHS director. You know? I mean, it's incredible that these guys buy into this without the. I mean, you're supposed to be doing no harm. That's what they're supposed to do, and you're supposed to know what the technology is and what the research has brought before you give this to people. It's crazy.
The good news is that the dam is starting to break with the embalmer and funeral director associations. In my latest survey, I had more responses this year than I had in the 2 previous years.
Yeah, they're getting with it, and they're less afraid of the government now.
Yeah, and I've actually been invited this summer, June 8th, to go speak to the Tennessee Funeral Directors Association in person. They're having their annual meeting, and they've invited me to come down and speak about the white fibrous clots and the surveys that I've done. So that's good. What was really bizarre, though, is this year's survey, my best performer from last year, the Pennsylvania Funeral Directors Association, last year they provided 125 responses from embalmers throughout the state of Pennsylvania in just 2 days to my 2023 survey. But in this latest end of 2024 survey, they've refused to participate in my survey, Dave, despite the fact that I have an email right here from their president saying that he's seen the unusual clotting in his corpses. Isn't that bizarre?
That's incredible.
And I also sent the survey that I built for cath lab workers. These are vascular surgeons, endovascular specialists, cardiologists that work in what's called a catheterization lab in a hospital that remove clots from a living person. I sent a survey to the U.S. Society for Vascular Surgery and also for Canada, UK, Australia, New Zealand. Well, I got a response. None of them decided to take the survey. I couldn't get a single response from a vascular surgeon, even though the U.S. Society for Vascular Surgery, which is headquartered in Rosemont, Illinois, and they brag about having over 6,300 members, vascular surgeons all across the U.S., refused to take my survey, Dave.
This is Illinois.
I know.
The governor probably said, no, you're not doing anything on me. Yeah.
Well, it is shocking because most of these societies and organizations like the British Institute of Embalmers, they have on their websites, they have these mission statements or code of ethics that say that they're supposed to be investigating, researching when they see something unusual happening inside the veins and arteries of people. But for some reason, they've decided to violate their own code of ethics and not research this.
So Tom, what are the cures? Was it ivermectin? I mean, what were the cures that they could have done?
Well, like I said, I think Dr. Peter McCullough's protocol is one of the most widely used in the world for the people that have already taken the vaccines, nattokinase, bromelain, curcumin. And he'll be the first to tell you there is no randomized control trial to prove it yet, but he has seen vast improvement in his patients that have taken that regimen. And they may take them 3 months to a year of taking that before they can detox their body of the damaging spike protein that's causing not just these clots, Dave, but also turbo cancers, nerve damage, miscarriages, all kinds of myocarditis.
Miscarriages. They had a bunch of miscarriages in the military.
Right. The DMED database showed a huge amount of miscarriages after the vaccines rolled out.
He took a survey on that, and suddenly that kind of stuff kind of disappeared from the DOD.
Yeah, Tom Renz and Teresa Long. The good news is they got the database, got to it before the DOD then went and changed it.
But if
the DOD said they fixed it, I think they fixed it in a certain way that looked favorable to them.
Before the epidemic, before the pandemic, you still had ivermectin, and they were using ivermectin for a lot of years. It was award-winning. It was
Nobel Prize.
Nobel Prize winner. And probably saved a lot of people in India where they almost exclusively use that instead of taking a shot. Why wasn't that? I mean, why was it just?
It was a horse paste, Dave. Remember they called it horse paste on the news.
Play the song. We're going to play that song, please. All right, we're going to play a little something here, and it's not to be funny, but it's to be cute.
I don't see anything coming up. Is there anything coming up, Dave?
Yeah.
But you're right. Yeah, it was terrible what they did. They knew that they had to poo-poo.
Yeah, I just played this for you. What is the problem here?
They knew that if they...
hold on.
So long story short, the cord that we have running from the mixer to the computer, it has stopped working. So it's going off of basically the microphone that's on the computer. That's how everybody can hear us over the feed and all that. So I'm trying to troubleshoot it, but
technical problems. Apparently,
they can still hear you and Tom talking.
The vein of this cord has been stuffed with something. I don't know.
Like protein got in your cord.
I don't know what's happening. Open your book up with a CDS and see what happened to our cord. For God's sake.
But we know there was a method to that, Dave.
Me neither.
Yeah, Fauci and Birx knew they could not get approval, emergency use authorization for their vaccine if there was a successful therapeutic out there. So they had to poo-poo the use of ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine in order to get their precious EUA for their vaccine. Otherwise, the vaccine never could have been fielded. So that's why you heard all this negative information about ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine.
Yeah,
which
all right.
Both have been useful.
Well, I think we've kind of beaten this subject to death, and that's not a no pun intended. But I think we need to go on, and I want you to get in touch with Jeff Zink. I'm sure he'll be thrilled to talk to you. By the way, and you'll probably
love to
be meeting with him on what to do and all that, and what your opinions are. We have similar opinions to it. We've talked about it a lot. I've talked to doctors out here, and same. Yeah, I read the New England Journal of Medicine, but what's the other thing? No, I can't remember it. Anyways, the Vader report. Yeah, the Vader. What's that? The doctors are asking me what it is. What the hell's that?
They should know about.
I can't fathom how they call themselves doctors and have so little interest in actually finding out what the hell's going on.
Well, I think they were paid to look the other way, Dave, and it's an unfortunate situation.
Exactly.
It really is. Yeah. In addition to the white fibrous clots, we also asked the embalmers again this year about another phenomenon called microclotting, which they describe as what looks like coffee grounds or dirty blood coming off the drainage of the corpse. And they're seeing that in about 22% of the corpses this last year. And that could be just as dangerous as the white fibrous clots because it occurs.
Is that also from the shot?
Yes. And it occurs at the capillary level. It can block the exchange of oxygen at the lungs and then carrying that oxygen to all your major organs in your body, including your brain, your eyes. That's why a lot of people might be experiencing brain fog or poor vision problems because they're having microclotting problems in their in those small blood vessels up in the head.
And the majority of the world's population, what is it, 6 billion, have taken the shot already?
5.5 billion of the 8 billion people on the planet took at least one shot.
So only 3.5 billion were actually saved. No, really, it'd be less than that. 2.5 billion.
2.5 billion avoided the shots, right?
Man,
most of them kids, thank goodness.
Well, yeah, and others. And they're, how do they give it to kids? I mean,
I know that it's shocking to me. You still see the commercials. I hear them on the radio.
I still see the commercials.
Yeah,
they're so stupid, and they tell you you're horrible because you didn't take the shot. You're going to infect somebody. Oh my God!
The good news is most Americans have stopped taking the COVID shots. It's down to about 10% of the population. But Big Pharma's not stopping, Dave. They've got new mRNA-based shots, for the RSV virus, shingles, the regular flu, the bird flu, more COVID shots. Well, this is the platform they want to use going forward. So I advise my family and friends not to take any mRNA-based shot.
For the people out there that didn't hear the little song, which is apparently a lot of people, I will sing it myself. Ivermectin, I take it by the pill. Ivermectin, the pandemic I shall chill. Ivermectin, I let it take its course. Ivermectin, now I'm neighing like a horse. Okay, how's that?
That was good, Dave.
Okay, stop the applause. No. Stop. All right, okay. If you insist. How's that?
Excellent. Trust your God-given immune system, audience. God gave you a good immune system for a reason.
I'm telling you. Yeah, isn't that true? I hardly see doctors anymore. I don't trust any of them.
To the immune system, Tom, I wanted to ask you, I just today saw where Megyn Kelly says she has Vades, vaccine-acquired immune deficiency syndrome, where her immune system is slowly destroying itself. What are your thoughts on that?
Megyn Kelly.
Yes.
That's old news, actually. Megyn came out about 1.5 to 2 years ago with that information. Yeah. Okay. That's it's what's happening is the more vaccines people take, the more damage is being done to their immune systems, because it's being tuned to look for a particular variant of COVID, which is always extinct by the time they get the shot out there. So the shot is completely useless because it's looking for an old variant that's already gone extinct, and the virus has already mutated to a new variant. So it's just reverse. Right. So it's setting you up to be actually more susceptible to catch COVID in the future, as shown by the Cleveland Clinic study. But it's also making you more vulnerable to other diseases as well. That's why you're seeing a big increase in things like sepsis again. I don't know if you've heard about that. That's coming around again. So it's been a disaster. These shots have been a disaster.
So let me ask you this: when the Congress and the president stuck their arms out to get shot, what was in there?
Yeah, I don't know. It was kind of strange that the Congress, they exempted themselves from having to take the shots. Mm-hmm. They pushed them on the rest of us, the peons in America, but they themselves exempted themselves from not having to take.
Did they know?
I don't know. I hate to think it's that sinister, Dave, but boy, the further this thing goes, the more you suspect it, don't you?
Oh yeah, they're not stupid. Yeah. If they really thought there was a disease that could be solved by this, they'd be taking shots left and right. Okay, so now you have to say, well, what did they know that we didn't?
Right. Okay. Well, plus the virus itself is very non-lethal in the first place. I mean, the case fatality rate has proven out to be about 0.3%, which is about the same as a bad flu season. So, originally they said, 3% of the population is going to die. And that was the initial numbers they gave us. So they were scaring people to death. But the actual number is about a factor of 10 lower than that, 0.3%. And primarily in people age 80 and over that had a lot of comorbidities in the first place and may have only had a year or two of life left on them, to begin with. So it was a total farce.
You shouldn't say that to people like me because I'm getting close.
Yeah. So don't let people run that fear campaign on you again, folks. If they come out with a bird flu pandemic or something else coming up, use your critical thinking skills. Take a look at the data long and hard before you trust anything that the experts tell you.
Other than the Dave Weinbaum Show, where can people find you and for speaking purposes, for whatever?
They can email me at thomashaviland@sbcglobal.net. JP's got there on the bottom of the screen. Also, my assistant, Laura Kasner, runs a wonderful Substack that we affectionately call Clot-tastrophe. So you can go to Clot-tastrophe, at lauracasner.substack.com, and you can see all the work we've done, the surveys that we've done over the last 3 years, some spectacular photos of the clots. You'll see more stuff, like this one, and these large clots. And then some other interesting articles too. Like last fall, Dave, I went to Hershey, Pennsylvania. I met Tucker Carlson in person. I paid $1,600 so I could meet Tucker, and I gave him a vial of these clots to keep. I gave one to his producer, Samantha, as well. So they have 2 vials of these clots. But I was hoping that Tucker would bring me on his show to talk about this.
Why not?
It's the most spectacular side effect of the COVID-19 vaccines. But Tucker has yet to contact me and have me on the show to talk about this. So I'm a little disappointed in that. But maybe with a little bit of shaming, maybe Tucker will bring me on.
I will call him.
Thank you.
I met him once. Anyways, my electric bill went up $75,000. No. I tell you, it's an abuse of power.
I'll give you applause because I can't. The applause button ain't working right now.
So I'll give applause.
There you go.
And Dave, it was an abuse of power what was done to us too, and making us take those shots, right? Preemptively.
Yeah, you're doing a great work. I just wish more people would have listened to you early, and keep going with this because you're going to get a lot of use, in my belief. Jeff Zink ain't going to take anything from anybody, and it appears that neither is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I don't think either one of them, after they're in, are going to take a lot of crap from anybody.
Right on, Dave.
Thank you for being on the show, buddy.
Thank you for having me, Dave.
Stay good. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, wow. Okay, so here we are now. We're at the. No, he's still there. What does that mean? And I like it.
There you go.
All right. What the hell happened?
Well, so
Well, let's go into commercial.
We can't do commercial. I can't do anything that I rely on the mixer for. What's basically happening is the microphone that's built into the computer, that's how they can hear us right now.
Really?
Yep.
So we have to just keep on talking
right now until I can try to troubleshoot this and figure it out.
I was wondering what the hell you were doing.
It's not the USB.
So he is now.
This is
still
special.
There. Why is he still there?
Oh, special.
Oh, he's just hanging out.
Oh, he's hanging out?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Hang out. Okay. I don't know if he can hear. Can he hear?
They can
hear? Oh, yeah. Stay on.
Stay
on. I got a lawyer coming on, and then I got Jeff Zink coming on.
So
if you got nothing to do, hang out.
Bill will have to be loud enough so that the.
Why don't you? Can you put him back on, Mike?
I can put him back on whenever.
Why don't you just put him on?
Okay.
Put him on. Yeah. I'm going to have to accuse you of being a weasel who actually figured out a way to weasel back on the show. But what the hell? Why not? We're going to have you on. I got a great guy coming up, ex-Iraqi soldier, and he is a terrific representative from Missouri. He would love to hear some of this too. And then I got Jeff Zink, and you could be on with Jeff Zink.
That'd be terrific.
Huh?
That would be great.
That's going to be Jeff, because he'll get you right into the HS. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
All right. So, okay. So you can't hear the commercials. So let's see.
Or clips.
Nor clips.
Nope. Nothing through the mixer. I got it. I'll try to see if I can get it working again.
Can you play some music on there so I can dance for the people or something?
I don't even know.
Can they call?
Oh, no.
They can still call.
All right. If you want to talk to me.
Actually, I don't know if that'll work because I go through the mixer for that.
Let me try.
Well,
you want to kill some time? I can go through a couple of my slides if you want to.
Yeah. Okay. Why don't you? Yeah, that'll be great. Okay. Why don't you give me my phone and listen to me? Listen to me, people, because I have a solution for this.
I don't know if it'll work though.
No. Here's the solution. The solution is this: if you want to talk to me, you call 573-578-2700. It's my phone, and I'll have it right next to the mic.
The mics aren't working because they go through the mixer.
My mic.
It won't work. We're going through the microphone attached to the computer right now.
Oh.
It's catching everything in the room. That's how it's picking us up.
Okay. Well, you can hold it by that.
I can set it by it. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. So 573-578-2700. All right. You can call in and we can talk. There you go. There's always a solution if you have the tools. Okay. And some of it's brain power and some of it's luck. But you keep trying until you find a solution. Right? Yeah, now he's shaking his head yes. Can you say something?
And Dave, while like I said earlier, I tried to run a survey with the vascular surgeons across the United States, and they all refused to.
Why?
I think because they all pushed the vaccines. They don't want to admit that they pushed something that was dangerous. What I did as an alternative, Dave, is I ran a survey. I said, well, if I cannot get good information from the doctor end, maybe I can get good information from the patient end. So I ran what was called a people's blood clot survey. And that had some very interesting results to it. Would you like to hear a few of the results?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay. Can you actually bring that survey up on the screen?
You have to give me just a couple minutes here to bring it up, and then I can do that.
Okay. Actually, I didn't send you that one. I actually have it. If you want to do it, we can do a share, or I can just talk to it. Let me just talk to it.
Okay.
That survey, even like I said, I got 0 vascular surgeons out of the world to respond to my survey for them. But in just 2 weeks, Dave, I got over 1,400 responses from people. So the patients are very willing to tell you about their blood clotting experience.
Out of how many? I was kind of looking at what he was doing.
1,400. I got 1,400 responses.
How many did you send?
Well, I sent out the survey to. What I did is I had it advertised on Dr. John Campbell, who's a famous YouTuber.
Yeah.
And also Clayton Morris and his wife Natalie have Redacted News. I had them advertise a QR code. And within just a couple of weeks, I got over 1,400 responses from around the world, all countries all around the world, North America, South America, Europe, Africa, in India, all over. And this particular survey, what was interesting is one of the questions I asked him is, Mark, what year that you had you or your person had the blood clotting problem?
Yeah.
And I put the year 2020 on there because that was a year that we had COVID, but no vaccines yet.
Yeah.
Only 79 people, just about 80 people said that they had their blood clotting issue in the year 2020. But then starting in 2021, it exploded to over 500 people a year for each of the years 2021 through 2024. So it jumped from 80 people having blood clotting issues in 2020 when we just had COVID to over 500 people having blood clotting problems in 2021 going forward after the vaccines rolled out.
Right after I had this collision with, right after 21 is when my best friend died, who got the shot, and they called it a heart problem. And I'm pretty sure, I found out later his boss said he had taken the first Moderna shot and was to take one later. And the guy was healthy. And then I started seeing people disappearing out here. Relatives were getting it. Her sister-in-law and my brother-in-law's brother died from it, it seems. 59 years old. Took the shot, and I'm seeing my butcher at Kroger's.
And your story is not unusual, Dave. I run into so many people, of course. And last week I was actually at CPAC. I went to CPAC last week.
Did you?
Yeah, I did there. Yeah, and I went and I did Media Row. I didn't go so much to see the speeches. I did see Trump's speech, and I saw Elon's speech, and I saw Moshe, the president of Argentina. I saw that clip you showed earlier. But I was there primarily to hit up, there's, like 20 or 30 podcasters and media people along the media row outside that room. And I went and did interviews just like I did last year on the results of my survey. And almost all of them wanted to interview me about, especially when I showed this thing to them. This gets me in the door a lot when they see this plot here, They say, wow, I want to know what's going on. One of the ones that did not, though, Dave, was Newsmax. Newsmax didn't want to touch my story at all, and they never have. I tried for 2 years.
You know why? You're chickens.
Sponsored by Pfizer?
They're chickens because they're afraid of getting sued. Oh, my God. When they were talking about the elections in 2020 being a fraud, they wouldn't say a word. You didn't even Fox for a while either. I'm afraid of getting sued and all that crap. The one guy that stands out to me was the pillow guy.
Yeah, Mike Lindell. He was there. He was at CPAC this year, and I did an interview with his reporter.
And I think Trump pointed him out too.
Yes.
So
yes,
there's some comments from Andrea regarding this.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, all right. Well, here you go. What?
I got on the board there. The comment from Andrea.
Oh, good. All right. Oh. Ask Tom if he has spoken to Dr. Ardis.
Yeah, I know about the work of Dr. Brian Ardis. Yeah. Very early on, I know there was some talk about like snake venom and things like that in the vaccine. I know of his work, but I have never actually talked to Dr. Ardis before, or some of the other people that have taken a look at this from a different angle, like nanotechnology. Some of the people have claimed they've seen in nanobots and stuff in the white clots. The team of scientists I'm with, we're looking at this strictly from a biochemical reaction. And like I said, they've analyzed the clots, and the clots contain about 56% of the clot is the fibrinogen I mentioned earlier. That is your natural protein that's produced out of your own liver. But then there's about 44% of the clot that is contained of the spike protein, a phospholipid nanoparticle from the vaccine, and what's called nonsense proteins. There's another phenomenon that's happening, the modified RNA from the vaccine, when it is read by our ribosomes in our cells, and the ribosomes that then create the appropriate amino acids, which then create the appropriate protein, the spike protein in this case. And it's doing that about 90% of the time, and that's bad enough because we know the spike protein itself is dangerous, but about 10% of the time, our ribosomes are actually misreading the code from the vaccine's mRNA and is producing what's called a nonsense or aberrant protein that could be of any length. And they found numerous of these. They found several hundred of these in the white fibrous clots as well. So just another reason why the mRNA technology is bad. They can't control where it is. They can't keep it in the arm. It goes all over the body. They cannot control how long it lasts. Instead of a couple days to a week, it's lasting for months, maybe even indefinitely.
Yeah.
And they also can't even control what it's producing 10% of the time. So it's just a failed technology, Dave.
Well, they got to get jiggy with a cure.
Amen.
That what's done is done, but you
Right.
need to have you need to have accountability for those kinds of mistakes, and there's money involved, big money involved, and that goes for the pharmaceutical companies as well.
Absolutely. One of the questions we asked in the People survey this year is how long after you got your shot did you get your blood clot issue? And it varied. There was 125 people that said less than 2 weeks. Another 118 said between 2 weeks and a month. 320 people said between 1 to 6 months. 217 said between 6 months and a year. And then 367 of the 1,400 said it was actually greater than a year when they form their clot. And that supports the theory that we have that it may take a couple of years for these white fibrous clots to actually grow to the point where then they completely block, or what's called occlude, a vessel, a vein or artery. And that's when you get your stroke or heart attack. So another question we asked him is, where in the body are you seeing the clots? And what's interesting here is it gives me great faith that the 1,400 people that answered the survey were answering accurately and honestly. Because the number one answer was legs. They see deep vein thrombosis. 593 said legs. Number two was lungs, 397. And that could be dangerous. That's what's called a pulmonary embolism. It can be fatal. That was the number two most popular region, followed by brain. 314 said brain. 267 said heart, and it goes on from there. And what's interesting about this, Dave, is it matches perfectly that CDC's VSafe data that we talked about earlier, that other database that CDC has. They did not. There's a free text data field that people could fill out, and the CDC did not want to release that free text data field to the public. But Del Bigtree and his folks at the Highwire, they call it ICANN, Informed Consent Action Network, they FOIA'd for that free text data field out of the CDC's VSafe database, and a judge made the CDC turn it over. And they've been doing it in the form of Excel spreadsheets over each month, and the hundreds of thousands of records until they get to the full 10 million. Yeah. And every time I get that Excel spreadsheet, I go through it, I do a search on the term blood clot, and then I count where the blood clot was taking place. And sure enough, legs was the number one answer, followed by lungs, followed by brain, followed by heart. Exactly the same ordering as the 1,400 people that answered my survey. So It gives me great confidence that these people are answering accurately, and it gives me, good faith in the data that I got from this survey.
Well, the conference with you and RFK, and it's inevitable to happen because this is right up their bullwhack of stuff to take care of. Even though these doctors have berated them terribly, who are
that's the horrible. Dr. Peter McCullough,
Dr. Cassidy. Comes to mind. He wasn't going to vote for him because he was anti-shot or something, and it's just so stupid. How stupid can they be? I'm serious. I'm not that smart. I figured it out. You had questions about it. I mean, and you went and sought I just have no way of knowing it unless it's printed somewhere. I'm not going to do I wouldn't know how to give a test and stuff like that, but I can certainly read the conclusions to the tests and figure out that there's a problem and a problem I don't want to get involved with, nor do I want my family with. God forbid I got 2 children that have been vaccinated. And so far, so good. We'll see.
And that's part of the reason I did these surveys, Dave. I've got family members and friends, too, who've taken the vaccine. And I want to know, are they in danger, right? Yeah. I want to know if my daughter, for example, is going to be able to have kids one day.
I got a granddaughter like that. She's just been married for well over a year, about a year and a half now. No pregnancy yet. She's 23. And I've talked to them about this, too,
And my children, for example, they were both going to university at the time. And the university was requiring the jab. I said, hey, go for religious exemption. And they said, no, Dad, we don't want to go through all the trouble. So they just said, I'm just going to take it. It's just, and
yeah, well, they figure out, well, it's the government, it's my doctor.
Right.
They're not going to do bad things to us. That's my Howard Stern invitation right there.
One of the questions we asked in this people survey was, how was your blood clotting issue resolved? And out of the 1,400 people, 383 said it's not been resolved yet. They still have the problem. The good news is 98 said that it did go away on its own. Another 416 were able to dissolve the clot using clot-busting drugs like tissue plasminogen activator, TPA. And those are probably the grape jelly ones we talked about. They were more easily dissolving.
So they replace them with the jelly ones?
But
they make them change into jelly ones.
No, they don't change. No, they're two different things. The grape jelly clots are blood coagulating. That's why they have that deep, dark red color.
Yeah.
Is because there's iron in there, for example. The white fibrous clots, when they've analyzed the clots, they contain very little magnesium, potassium, or phosphorus. Or magnesium, potassium, iron. They contain large amounts of phosphorus.
They replace those veins with the blood ones instead of the white ones?
No. What's happening is the traditional blood clots that formed before COVID, the grape jelly clots inside. Like I said, that is just blood coagulating, and that's why it is dark red in color, because it has large amounts of iron. The white fibrous clots contain very little iron, but contain a large amount of phosphorus, which is not in normal blood. Normal blood contains very little phosphorus in it. So. And what's interesting is the COVID vaccines contain large amounts of phosphorus in terms of phosphates.
Yeah.
So that's led the scientific team that was one of the first things that indicated, hey, maybe the vaccines are involved here because we're finding a large amount of the element phosphorus in these white fibrous clots. It's not in normal blood, but it's in the vaccine.
Right.
So,
all right, listen, I got my next guest here.
Yeah.
And he's only 11 minutes late, which is fine. There's no problem. He's a busy guy. Iraq platoon leader, National Guard, lawyer, professor, philosopher, and our district rep. Please welcome all the way from Waynesville, Missouri, Bill Hardwick. There's no applause. You see, I'm sorry, you lost your popularity.
When JP gets in, we get the applause.
Where's the applause? Is everything going now? No.
Still
okay, we got technical problems.
Yeah,
and this gentleman was staying on to help us out.
Basically, what's happening is we're going off the microphones are dead because the mixer's not working right. Yeah. We're going off of the microphone on the laptop.
Can you hear me okay?
I'm going to check.
Does this go into the?
No,
it doesn't.
No, because the mixer's not working right now.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you because the microphone on the computer.
Is it loud enough?
You're coming through, yeah.
Okay.
So I should just talk loudly.
Just talk loudly.
Just talk loudly.
Yep.
You always had a big mouth. So what the hell? That's wrong. I'm sorry. I apologize. It's too early to insult you. Anyways, we've been talking. We've been talking about this guy's an expert in what happened to the pandemic.
Yeah.
And why so many people died. He was part of the movie Died Suddenly.
Yeah, I watched it as soon as it came out.
Yeah. Have you watched any of this? Or
I've watched that. I think I've seen some reels and stuff with him on there.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you probably already talked about RFK Jr.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Pretty big deal that he's the health secretary.
We got Jeff Zink coming on next.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
The going to be the assistant to RFJ.
It's pretty exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty interesting, and he's been telling us about all the VAERS report and how come doctors didn't understand this and didn't know this, and so
I was thinking because there's a big turnover in the military, right?
Yeah,
generals getting fired left and right. Did he already talk about that? Well, I'm going to touch on it too.
Well, he was also involved in it. He was a contractor that kicked out.
Well, I appreciate that, the DMED data. But I was thinking about all the generals that got fired.
Yeah.
And they're complaining. And they go, hey, we had this lifelong career. You can't do this to us. And just a couple years earlier, they were firing soldiers left and right for not taking the COVID vaccine. And they just said, hey, this is a policy of the Secretary of Defense and President. You got to follow it. So I don't feel sorry for those guys who are getting axed at the Pentagon because of the way they treated our military over the COVID mandates and COVID vaccines.
Oh, the ones who are getting fired now? You mean?
Yeah, no, the guys who are getting fired now are the exact same guys who said, you take it or get out.
Maybe that's the reason.
And there's an entire generation of soldiers now that have heart problems, who have immune disorders, who have blood clots, who have neurological issues.
Miscarriages for the gals.
Miscarriages. All of that is spiked immediately in our military.
Sure.
And they didn't bat an eye at telling those soldiers, take it or your career's over. And now President Trump came back and said,
Bingo.
what do you guys do around here? You're fired. And they're all freaking out. The media's freaking out.
Yeah, exactly.
But not a tear shed for the lower enlisted and the junior ranking soldiers who had their lives destroyed by the COVID vaccine mandate.
Well, most of the liberals still believe that the vaccines were legit.
I don't understand how anybody, after all this, after years of this coming out, can think that it's a good idea to go take mRNA boosters and mRNA vaccines at this point.
Yeah.
I don't understand how anybody
are people still getting the shots?
Yeah, Dave, less than 10% though, mostly the elderly. The good news is most Americans figured it out. They took 2 or 3 shots. They still caught COVID anyways. They started hearing about all these nasty side effects, including these clots. And they decided, you know what? No more shots for me. So Americans they'll get smart after a couple of shots, and they'll figure out that the shots are not working. So that's
I'd
the
like
good
to
news.
think that somebody, or more than one person, or maybe 100 or so, maybe 1,000, listened to this show and said, I think I better wait on this. I better not get this. It's sounding pretty dangerous.
You helped save lives, Dave. You did by having me on your show early, and because if it's not for you, the major news networks have not been putting this information on. Other than Cheryl Atkinson, the famous TV reporter, had me on her Full Measure TV show. Yeah, but other than Cheryl, this is no national show has had me on as an interview. So thank God that you're there, Dave, to help get the word out.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think that I tell the truth. I might not be the brightest star, as he knows and she knows, but I will tell you what I think, and I like to think that it's true, and that I've got a history of being right most of the time. Okay.
And Bill is right too. Bill is right to talk about what happened to the military, and it was an unlawful order, wasn't it, Bill? Why don't you explain why it was an unlawful order?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of reasons why. One is that you can't experiment on soldiers when there's not authorization. It's not a distribution authorization. One is that the law has rules for medical accommodation, for doctor's notes, for religious accommodation. One is there's just rules about how when a drug or vaccine gets invented, it's got to go through a procedure before you can use it in the military. So at that time when that mandate came out, the Department of Defense under the Biden administration, they rescinded, they suspended, they ignored every single regulatory and statutory protection for soldiers because they wanted to push something on soldiers for political reasons, or you could say, pharmaceutical and government industrial complex reasons, right? That. I mean, Eisenhower warned us about the military industrial complex. There's also a pharmaceutical industrial complex, right? So for whatever reason, they pushed it. They went through all that stuff. And me as a soldier, I think your first duty as leader is to protect our country, protect your soldiers.
Yeah.
Make sure they're being taken care of. And I think that there's just failure level to do that. But there are a lot of reasons why that was an illegal order.
And what did it do to morale, Bill? Tell Dave what it did to morale.
I can these questions. I mean,
I know this.
And the people in the legislature get tired of me talking about this because this is one issue that I really get fired up about.
Yeah.
They talk about the military, the mass exodus after Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And recruiters will tell you the number one reason people were leaving and not joining because they didn't want to take the COVID vaccine.
Yeah.
They were people who loved their country, but they knew that this was wrong, this was messed up, and they didn't want to do it. And so you had people who served in Iraq, Afghanistan, got shot at, got blown up, that went overseas and fought. They had these 15, 20-year careers.
Yeah.
And then the Washington, D.C. comes down and says, take this experimental mRNA vaccine that pretty soon we realized wasn't going to keep you from getting COVID.
Yeah.
Wasn't going to keep you from spreading COVID. Everybody who took it was sick all the time. Facts, right? And then people who were taking it were getting heart attacks.
Yeah.
And everybody could see that. Everybody could see they were getting heart problems. And if you don't do it, there's no mercy for you. There's no room for you. We're going to destroy your career. And I think that a man who did that, who served their country like that, that'd be pretty demoralizing. But also, you go home to your family, and it's this choice.
You don't want your kids to go.
Well, you never would have. Yeah, and you never would have been in that situation where you go, well, it's my retirement, it's my health insurance, it's whatever, it's for my family. I made this investment for my country, and I hate that when soldiers and veterans, they make a deal with their country that they're going to go fight and they're going to go serve, and the country's going to take care of them. We didn't take care of them.
Right.
I'm trying to think of the right words that I could say that are good for the show. We treated them really poorly for political reasons, and part of that entire
Donald
era.
Trump can use the S word.
I'm not going to.
Come on, man.
I'm trying. Yeah, but it's something, and anybody who talks to me about it, when I talk about this issue, it gets me really fired up, because I don't think we should ever forget what they did to our soldiers.
Right.
I don't think they should ever forget the outcome. Do you know how many people I know that have heart problems now? Do you know how many people in their 20s and 30s have had heart attacks? Who can't run anymore?
Youngsters,
young people, who just died. Who people who were 30 years old just dropped dead.
Amazing.
And we don't talk about that, but I know about that because I'm in a weird position where I could see the National Guard. I could see almost everything in my.
And you know what's in the Army.
In my soul role, I could see the military data, and then I have statewide data, and then I could see county data, and I could see state health data, right? So I'm like in this weird position where I could see the whole thing.
Wow.
And you can't gaslight me to tell me that it wasn't happening.
Yeah.
Because I know exactly what was happening.
Yeah.
And I did my best to fight against it.
And actually, you being on the show was helpful.
No, we came and talked. Well, it was actually encouraging because you go and go a week in the legislature and you fight and say we can't have. First when I first got elected, it was fight against mask mandates and shutdown mandates. Then there was a serious time in the state of Missouri. We forget about this. Just 4 years ago, there was a serious time when the state government was considering a statewide COVID vaccine mandate to make everybody in the state take it. That was a real discussion we were having.
Yeah.
And then there was a real discussion about can you travel? Should you be able to leave your house unless you take the COVID vaccine? We were having a real debate about that in Jefferson City. And that seems so far removed, but it was only because people who were willing to be unpopular and hated and smeared and take on this apparatus were willing to fight about it. It almost seems like ancient history, but we were very, very close at the state level and at the federal level too, saying if you want to leave your house, if you want to fly on an airplane, if you want to go across state lines, if you want to have a work permit,
proof.
If you remember in Israel where they had the green passes, where they had the go passes, you got your booster, it turned green, and then it turned red, and you couldn't ride the subway, you couldn't go to the store, stuff like that.
Yeah.
We were talking about doing that in Missouri 4 years ago, and to me, we're thinking that's totalitarian, that's Stalinist, that's fascist, that's statist.
My granddaughter had to take a shot to get to go to Israel.
Well, that's right. And Israel had very different policies, but we were right there in this country to everything in the 20th century America fought to have. We were right there, right on it. And because of people who were afraid, because people were afraid socially of fitting in, because people just were prone to do what they're told, there just weren't that many. It didn't seem like there were that many people fighting against it. There were a lot of people who just went along with it. But thank goodness there were people who were fighting.
There's a lot of people on the other side, to your point,
I don't even know why
that were saying you have to do this. You're being dangerous to all of us. Howard Stern, you idiot. You're a dope. How did you turn into from a good guy to a dope? Give me a break. And he's lecturing you about a thing that's going to kill you. What a dumbass.
There was a lot of othering going on, wasn't there? It was interesting because, people say that, well, if I lived back in Germany back in the 30s, I never would have been that way against the Jews. I would have never have, othered people like that. Then it turned out the majority of Americans were othering us, the unvaccinated. Like, Well, you
know what? Everybody here has now had the Jewish experience of being treated like one, like they did in Germany. They're doing it still. They're doing it still with the war thing, the Israeli war, Hamas, Hezbollah, and they're still demonstrating in colleges. They're still having mini riots where Jews are not allowed. They actually shut the door on the Jews going in to have their own little meeting. So
it should be a soul check for people, Dave and Bill. I don't know about the two of you, but I have not had too many people come up to me and say, you know what, I've made a big mistake. I took the jabs, or I pushed the jabs, or I got mad at the unvaccinated, and I'm sorry I did that. I don't hear many apologies. I hear a lot of, let's just move on. Let's forget about it. What do you guys hear? What do you gentlemen hear?
Well, for me, you're going to hear that they ought to have Nuremberg trials like they did in 1947, and you're hearing it from me, and I'm talking about everybody's involved in this deal. I might be involved. I have stock in Microsoft. I don't know how. I have some stock in some of the others. So yeah, try me too. What the hell?
I haven't got my apologies yet directly from people who told me I was crazy and told me I was going to kill everybody with COVID.
Well, that's just your wife, wasn't her? No. She probably said it for a different reason, though.
And the people who emailed me and said, "I hope you and your family die of COVID because of my stance." I haven't got anybody of those people apologize to me.
Wow.
And there are people say move on, but I don't think we can forget what happened, because if we don't make changes and if we don't realize it that what could happen, I don't think this is the last time something like this is going to happen in our country. Like, this fight's not over. So I'm not going to live a life of resentment, but I'm also not going to forget what exactly we did in this country. We became a state-controlled, absolute government-controlled country for a hot minute in America. And it's something that it's part of history now that we should say, don't ever do that again. In my opinion.
Yeah, but here's the other part of history. It wasn't just a pandemic where we were singled out. We were singled out as people who supported Donald J. Trump as MAGAs, a real danger, a real white racist danger to this country. It had nothing to do with the pandemic. And that's another way they were coming at us. And it wasn't just the Jews, it wasn't Israel, it was white people. In fact, they called the Trump Hitler. Okay? Trump with grandchildren who are Jewish, a daughter who's Jewish. That's another thing that they added onto that.
Well, obviously Donald Trump is not Hitler. And I think that the people,
some people will believe that.
Yeah, but it's like on its face ludicrous, right? It's a ludicrous comparison. And I think that the people who supported Donald Trump have been treated a lot differently socially and by the media and by academia than almost any other political movement in history. I've lost a lot of friends over supporting Donald Trump. I lost a lot of people who said, "I'll never talk to you again. I thought you were a smart guy. I thought you were a nice guy, but how can you support this guy?"
Yeah.
And I feel like I was just upholding the values that I always did.
Hey, can you move some of these messages over, because I can't read them; they're too small.
Yep.
Okay. Andrea Shrum, Representative Hardwick. How did you vote on HB 544?
I voted no. That's the Monsanto bill. That's the bigger bill. HB 544 gives it said that that if EPA or FERPA said that a product was okay to be distributed, that you cannot. I think it's the HB 544 this year, that you cannot sue them for failure to warn. So the bill said that it's any carcinogenic pesticide substance. In this case, we're talking about glyphosate. Glyphosate is a herbicide that if you hit it on a leaf plant, it goes into the stem of the plant. It keeps the plant from developing certain amino acids to grow, and it kills it, right? And so there are a lot of lawyers and a lot of doctors that think that glyphosate, when it gets on your skin, it absorbs in your skin. And it's one of the things that causes non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in people. And I think that makes sense to me that you shouldn't be putting on your skin. It's going to have these health effects. It's causing people to have cancer. And so I don't think that we should give them a special break based on what the FERPA and the EPA say to not label that product. And, there was a lot of pressure. There was a lot of lobbyists who wanted us to vote yes on that bill, but I couldn't, because I thought that I was not taking care of my constituents. I was taking care of a particular corporation, Monsanto, and not the people of Missouri at large. So I voted no on that bill.
All right. How about Christopher? Oh, Shannon Reed.
Yeah.
Shannon Reed. Thank you for sharing the VAERS report with me. Shannon Reed, of course, yes. The Godfather, Christopher Ranzini. Good morning to you, Dave, and lovely Lisa. Great show and very informative. Let us all agree, this is what we see. The real situations. Virus originated in China from a biogenic lab. Pharmaceutical companies are in a race to come up with a solution for profits. The government guaranteed a 7-year profit margins for the first pharmaceutical company to come up with a cure is awarded 7 years profits for no taxes on a generating residual cash flow. False narrative. Okay. pretty good.
Yet they didn't want to run any trials. The big pharma, with all the profits they've made the last 4 or 5 years, they don't want to do any trials to see how, check out the adverse effects of the products they've been putting on the market for the last 4 years.
Yeah, Pfizer's especially. I remember when James O'Keefe, you know who James O'Keefe is?
Project Veritas.
Yeah. And he went in, yeah, of course it's something else now because he got booted out of there. But he went and snookered got a gal to ask this guy for dinner, and they had dinner, and this guy, she was wired, and he was a big guy with Pfizer, and he was telling her that we don't care about this crap. We're out to sell this stuff, and we're willing to sacrifice people for it. I mean, that's about what he said. All right, let him sue me if it's different. And then he got caught, and he raised such a ruckus. He was telling them, "You're liars," and this. How dare you set me up like? And it was something else to see that this guy was a top guy in Pfizer, and he's telling them this is what their strategy is, to sell more stuff that he knew would cause harm and maybe cause death.
I've got a question for Bill, Dave.
Yeah, sure.
A few minutes ago, you were talking about Big Ag, Monsanto.
Yeah.
How much pressure, Bill, do you get from the lobbyists for Big Ag and Big Pharma in your position as a state rep?
A lot. But I'm different. I'm kind of like my own. I'm pretty set in my ways, right? And I'm pretty. I kind of do my own thing, and people leave me alone. I just say I'm a no or whatever. But I think that a lot of representatives, they're under a lot of pressure. Their constituents. And they get people who come in, they say, we represent agriculture, for example. You can't do mRNA labeling because it'll destroy agriculture. You've got to do this or you're against farmers. We're gonna spend heavily against your opponent and defeat you in the upcoming race. So if you want to keep your seat, if you don't want everybody in your district to hate you, vote the way that we tell you to. And so it's really easy in Jeff City, probably in DC too, to be in that universe and go, man, everybody tells me that I have to do this. But what I had always done to inoculate myself, no pun intended, against that is I just come back here and I talk to people like Dave, or I go back and talk to my town and I go, here's the issue. What do you guys think? And people go, that's crazy. Why would you give the company immunity, right, for a carcinogen? That doesn't make any sense. Then you go to Jeff City and it's like a different universe, right? And I appreciate people who voted yes on that bill. I don't think they're all bad people. I think there is a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure to go, well, my bills will die. Well, I'm trying to get this in the budget. I'm trying to whatever. They're doing whatever. Just I got to a point where I thought, here's the point I got to. I started voting like I wasn't a state representative anymore. I started voting like I was just a regular guy on the street. Mm-hmm. And I thought, what do I want the law to be?
Sure.
And so if I said, hey, if I was just not in the state house, I was just living on the farm, what do I think the law should be? I'm going to vote no. I don't think it's a good law. So I just started voting that way, and that's what's worked for me.
All right, listen, I got a call here. Hold on a minute. Hold on. I got another guest on. Another guest. How about that? This man is a kinesiologist, Division I football player, then Division I basketball referee. He'll be voted in as HHS Assistant Secretary to John Fitzgerald, or Robert Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr. very shortly. Please welcome all the way from, I don't know where, I don't know if he's from in DC now or if he's in Phoenix, but give a round of applause. And we don't have the applause machine on. We had to let them all go because something's broken. Jeff Snake, come on, everybody. Come on, you can do better than that. He's clapping himself. Look at that. Hi, Jeff. Can you hear me?
How's it going?
Yeah, pretty good. Boy, do I got somebody here for
yeah,
you.
I can see. You got Bill in the background.
Do you know who this gentleman is who's also in the picture?
No, I don't.
Tom Haviland.
Tom Haviland. Oh, okay.
I'm a retired U.S. Air Force major that's done 3 worldwide Embalmer blood clot surveys over the last 3 years, Jeff, showing a tremendous temporal link between the COVID-19 vaccines and these unusual white fibrous clots that embalmers with 20 or 30 years of experience had never seen before, most of them
Correct.
prior to 2021, not until after the rollout of the COVID vaccines.
Actually, I've been reading your research, and we're going up on looking at it. So we're gonna. So you and I need to talk. But I also need to let you know some changes have happened since the last time we talked.
What's happened?
So one of the things is that, as you know, DOGE is going through at each department, and they're cutting jobs that is redundant. They are consolidating jobs that had been massively spread out that one person could have done. They had like 6 or 7 people actually doing the job of one person. So those are all have been done. And so there's been a evaluation of what's taking place. And right now, I know that I'm in, but they're now thinking that I may end up being the deputy chief of staff instead of the assistant secretary of health, which means that I would be the second in command under Bobby directly and directly over every thing in HHS.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so that's what
bigger,
they're looking at right now.
So now you call him Bobby. Is that right?
Well, it is going to be one of those things where he and I are going to be having to talk. But there's so my background check has been started.
Yeah.
I still have to do that. But here's the great thing. I don't have to go through a confirmation if I get that position, because that's an appointed position.
Oh.
And so I don't have to go through and do the confirmation.
You don't have to listen to the stupid crap that some of these senators are told.
But this is wonderful, Jeff, because, for the last 3 years, I have been begging the FDA, the CDC, to do surveys similar to the ones I've been doing. As a retired Air Force major, I just took it upon myself because they weren't doing the surveys amongst not just embalmers and funeral director associations across the country and the world, but also vascular surgery societies, because these things are being seen in the living as well. I've got a whistleblower from Jacksonville, Florida, an endovascular specialist and cardiologist, who says he's been removing these same white fibrous clots from living people for the last 4 years. Yet the FDA and the CDC have refused to do surveys of their own, which would carry a lot more weight, right? And then those organizations would probably, get a lot more response if it was done by a government agency as opposed to just a retired U.S. Air Force major. Now, I think they'll find the same results that I found, and I think the results they'll find will be shocking and show a very strong link between the vaccines and these clots. But it's just, like I said, I have been trying for the last 3 years to get them to do it, Jeff, and they just refused to do it. They just said, they actually wouldn't send me back anything. And one small email I got back from them just said, "Hey, we've looked at VAERS. We don't see a signal. The vaccines are safe and effective." And that's pretty much the only answer I've gotten from them.
Right. Well, I can assure you that once I get in, that's not going to be the case. We're not going to send something out that just says, "Well, we looked at it and everything's fine," because it's not fine. I've looked at some of the research where you have reactions to mercury, and which is what they're saying is actually forming these clots because of a chemical reaction that happens. Then the body then has a defense system, which then has the clots that you're showing. And all of this is traced back to the vaccine because we have mercury in there and magnesium. And when you put those two together, it literally grows a very long thread. Well, the body reacts to that. Are these similar to explaining what I've been reading?
Yeah, I actually, myself and Richard Hirschman are in touch with a team of scientists that believe that there is first of all, the white fibrous clots, they're not blood coagulating, because typical blood, as I explained to Dave earlier, contains high amounts of potassium, magnesium, and iron. Iron's what gives blood its red color. These instead contain a high amount of phosphorus, which is interesting. because what we think is happening is that there's the spike protein from the vaccine or from the virus itself is becoming phosphorylated, and then it starts to have a great affinity for our blood's natural fibrinogen. Fibrinogen is a protein in our body produced by the liver that's used in the normal clotting process, and it's usually in a liquid form. Fibrinogen is, and then it converts to fibrin when a clot is needed, when there's a wound to your vascular system. But instead of properly transferring from fibrinogen into fibrin, the fibrinogen is instead combining with both the spike protein from the vaccine and the phospholipid nanoparticle that delivers the mRNA for the vaccine to produce these bizarre rubbery clots instead. And the scientists have done several tests to prove that is indeed what is happening, Jeff. So I'll get you in touch with those people so you'll see the results of their analysis of the clots.
Okay. All right. I look forward to it.
Remarkable success on the border. What effect did the open borders have on fentanyl disease, the pandemic coming over the borders south or north, and now in the oceans? First of all, go ahead, Jeff, and then I want a response from both you guys here, okay?
Well, the main thing is that the open borders, we have well over 100,000 estimated a week that was unchecked, and so the amount of fentanyl, the amount of disease, and this is also during 21 when you had masks, we were locked down, and we were allowing these people to come in, and they were unvaccinated. They were not even checked or made to mask up. They were just transported all over the country, and so one of the reasons why I thought it was kind of interesting that we had a measles death. Well, and we've had a couple of measles outbreak. Well, you know what? We're going to be able to trace that back to unvaccinated people that was allowed into our country and stuff. But the thing is that this is more prolific than what people give a tribute to, and the cost is right now what is estimated is about 15,000 deaths are attributed to fentanyl, to diseases that have been brought in and stuff, and that's a week. That's not a month. That's a week. 15,000 that has taken place, and so these are things that we've got to. When I get there, I've got to look at this to see, is those numbers accurate? Are these articles and doctors that are sending me all this information? Is this accurate? And we've got to take a look at it and think about that. I grew up in the time when in Vietnam, when we had death tolls every day that was told how many people died there in Vietnam and stuff. And we would be just shocked if we were losing 15,000 soldiers a week. It would have just been a horrific deal. Yet this is the kinds of things that we're now being subjected to. And these are direct results from the last administration.
Okay, respond to that, please. Tom?
I think only about 56,000 men died in Vietnam total, right? So we're talking about horrific numbers compared to those that we lost just in Vietnam. So it is shocking that there's been less done about this on the border. I want to hear about what Bill is seeing in your state of Missouri. What's happening there in terms of the drug problem?
Well, Missouri is a big state for fentanyl trafficking, drug trafficking, human trafficking, because we got I-44 and I-70 that come through here, and we're kind of a hub throughout the state. So, I mean, we're one of the states that's ranked worse in human trafficking of children. And, from my time as a federal and state prosecutor, there are drug cartels that are operating in the state of Missouri. There's no doubt about that. Just like you would echo what you guys said, it's been a failure of our federal government to have a border. You're not a country without a border, and close the border down. So all I want from my government is to protect me from the threats around the world and protect my freedom, right? Protect my rights. That's the main thing I want the government to do. And our government's done the reverse. From overseas, from the bad guys around the world, from fentanyl, from who knows what, from all of our external national security threats, complete failure to protect the border on that. And then simultaneously, we've got a government that's eroding and taking away people's freedom more and more. So we've done the exact reverse. So I think there's a lot of failure on a lot of levels. What we're seeing in Missouri is just kind of the effects of that. We're doing a town hall on Tuesday, and I know there are a lot of families showing up where their kids, whatever they got into, whatever they got trapped in, they just got exposed to fentanyl and they died. There are a lot of things there, and we know from just visiting with people who know things that there is a real risk of kids when they kind of get into stuff, they get away from their parents, they're on the internet, and then they're trafficked, right? And it's not just a problem; it's in Arizona and Texas, it's in Missouri too. So there's a long litany of reasons. I can go on for hours why I voted for Donald Trump. But one of the reasons, too, is that closing that border down and stopping those people from coming to our country and hurting the people in America.
Are you not shocked by how quickly it's been shut down?
I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked because I think that President Trump has had really 8 years to think about this, what he's going to do.
Well, apparently
he's had 4 years sitting out.
That's an interesting comment, because would he be this good if he actually won the 2020 election?
I think that in this course of history, what's happening right now is really important. And he had 4 years to think about how did they undermine me every way.
Yeah,
we're going to come in, we're going to fire these guys and replace them immediately, and we're going to make these decisions. And there have been 4 years of lawyers thinking about how you can do this.
Yeah,
so I think it's good.
It's amazing. Jeff, do you have a comment for that?
Well, absolutely. And this is one of the reasons why everybody that you see that's going into the cabinet are disruptors, are people that don't follow the norm. One of the reasons why my name rose so quickly is because I have no ties to the pharmaceutical companies. I have no ties to the insurance companies. I have no ties other than I am a very loyal Trump supporter in the fact that I went to 9 states and did audits and proved that he was our duly elected president.
In 2020, right? Did you say in 2020?
In 2020.
Yeah.
And then the other is that I'm a J6er, was there to support. And so the thing is that one of the things we've got to do is we've got to sit down and break these ties. The other thing too is and Bill, I want to sit down and talk to you as well, because here's something that a small company that's literally been sued to oblivion that can change the lives of every police officer and every firefighter. He has a deal. He's a former firefighter. It's been approved. Hard to believe, but they can, if somebody comes in contact with fentanyl or anything else, the police officers, and they realize that it's fentanyl, they have the ability to spray this stuff that he has now got a patent on, and it neutralizes fentanyl and all toxic drugs within 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Wow. And one of the things that also happens is that if you go to a fire, once they put it out, it still vaporizes into the air all of these toxins. Well, they can spray this, and what happens within a minute and a half at a fire site, it will neutralize all of those toxins and make it to where it's safe and it's not off-gassing the toxins.
Wow. So how's Ryan doing? He was gonna go to the Supreme Court, I thought. And how are the J6ers doing? That's the other question I want to ask him. Yeah,
we are. We're moving forward. Mark McCluskey and Peter Tickton have picked up my son's case.
They have. Great.
Yes, they have.
Yes. And let me just mention that McCluskey is also a guest, along with his wife Patricia, here on the Dave Weinbaum Show. Isn't that interesting? Look at this. This is great. I'm sitting here looking at it all. I'm sort of looking at, you're going to get involved with them now. Whether you want to or not, you're going to get involved. And this is great. I want to thank you guys for doing this, okay? Just hit me that, wow, what's going on here? I appreciate that.
So one of the things that's taking place is that they're going to pick this case up. They're going to move it forward. They're going to take it to the appellate court. We've actually won in the J6 community 2 cases that have been moved on. A lot of times what's happened is that you've been pardoned, and so the appellate court just dismisses it because they're pardoned. Well, we've actually got 2 people that we got through because of the technicalities of what's taking place. So we're going to be utilizing that in Ryan's case, and then we're also going to be doing it. But the main thing is that Ryan met the criteria of 20 different categories there. Didn't take a plea deal, didn't go into the Capitol, didn't fight with Capitol Police, darn sure didn't kill Brian Sicknick, which is what he was all accused of.
Now, that was testified to in a court of law by who?
Well, it was the Chief Justice, federal judges, is who heard my son's case, and he made statements during my son's case that Ryan's guilty of a crime. We just have to have the trial. When they made a motion to dismiss,
specifically pointed him out as killing Sicknick.
Correct. When they came out and said that they didn't have any evidence whatsoever that my son entered into the Capitol, which he was charged with, that he fought with Capitol Police. They didn't have any evidence of that. In fact, we had evidence to the contrary. And then they had to retract that he had killed Brian Sicknick. Well, when they dropped those charges and we made a motion to dismiss, Judge Boasberg made this statement: Ryan's guilty of a crime. We just have to have the trial. And then we proceeded to convict my son.
You have that recorded somewhere?
Well, with my own ears and the other people sitting in there, I think Ryan said that the statement had been redacted from the transcript.
How can you do that?
Well, when you're
That's
corrupt,
obstruction of justice, isn't it? That's obstruction of justice.
Oh, there's a lot more. There's prosecutorial misconduct. There's judicial misconduct. All of these things were criteria. And my son's case was the only case out of 1,600 that fit the 20 things that you had to meet in order to get that. Where the FBI destroyed evidence. We had that on record. That is on record, that they destroyed evidence that, so he couldn't put on a defense where the judge on record stated that Ryan could not put up a First Amendment defense. That's on record. That didn't get redacted. So that is on record and stuff. And so I'm sorry, but America, you should be able to put on. So statements like Trump, we want Trump was weaponized against my son in his trial. We're storming the Capitol. We're storming the Capitol. They can't stop us. Was weaponized against my son. The thing is that, and I think Bill knows this, there's a difference between I hate Dave, I don't like him, or I'm going to kill Dave. There's those two statements are completely different.
Everybody, it's on record. It's on the record. She's working on my estate planning now.
Yeah. So
Thanks,
the difference between those two statements, Bill, one is against the law, one is freedom of speech, right?
Right. That's exactly right.
Okay.
You could say I want. Yeah, exactly right. Go ahead.
So that's one of the things that we're looking at is that all of the statements that Ryan made, even though they're considered by the left hate speech, they're not illegal. There's nothing that was illegal about what he said, but it was weaponized against him in his trial and used to convict him.
How many agencies were represented, including the FBI and others? What number of people were there that were sent by the government at J6?
Well, we know of 12, but we also know that there were 63 different agencies from other countries as well.
The FBI finally has admitted to 26, didn't they? That they had.
Well, but they haven't come out and stated that you had the Ukrainian special forces that was on our soil. That
did you know that, Tom?
When I was at CPAC last week, there was quite a few J6ers there, and they were well received by the crowd. I also ran into Ashley Babbitt's mom, gave her a big hug. So told her what they did to her daughter was just outrageous and wrong. Yeah. So I was happy to see that the people at CPAC last week accepted the J6ers with open arms, because they realized that they have been so brutally mistreated these last 4 years.
Okay, your thoughts, Bill?
I think I agree with that. They were brutally mistreated. We criminalized political dissent, which is the First Amendment to the Constitution, that you can criticize things and ask questions of your government, petition your government.
You can question your election, can't you?
It's the
can't
first
you question
right.
an election?
If you're an American citizen, you can question whatever you want to. You can question what the FDA says, or pharmaceutical companies. You can question your state representative all day long. You can question the outcome of election. You can question the president. That's your right as an American. And we definitely have gone away from that. And that's what there's a lot of reasons why January 6th represents a threat to freedom, to due process, to the Constitution.
It's a threat to democracy.
So the way that the Justice Department acted, in my opinion, was a big threat to democracy. Hate speech too. We just had this debate on the floor of the House this week, and there are a lot of my colleagues across the aisle who kept saying the First Amendment does not protect hate speech. And I said it absolutely does protect hate speech. It particularly protects things that are unpopular, that the status quo or the public may not want to hear. That's why we have it, because if everybody agrees with you, you don't need protection. But the First Amendment's for us to say ideas that other people might find contrary to what they want to think about the world. And in a free society, in a free country, you get to say, here's what I think. Or wait a second, I have an issue, I have a question. And you've got a right to express that. And you can't be shut down by your government. And January 6th, besides being held with no charges, besides being indefinite confinement, besides having punishments that didn't fit the crime, all that, we ultimately were punishing people that had an opinion about the 2020 election. We were criminalizing that. And that enough is a reason for a president to come in and say, I'm going to undo all that with a pardon to me.
Okay, we're running short on time. Closing arguments. Let's start with Tom.
For my stance on the vaccines thing, I'm very happy to have met Jeff, and I look forward to working with you and RFK Jr. on this most spectacular side effect of the COVID-19 vaccines. Unfortunately, as I was telling Dave earlier, embalmers are still seeing these, Jeff, in 27% of the corpses. 1 out of every 4 corpses has these white fibrous clots in them. So this problem's not going away, even though most people took their last jabs way back in 2021. Most people passed on most of the boosters. We're still seeing these, and like I said, it's a phenomenon they never saw before the years of COVID or the vaccines. So I really look forward to working with you and your team when you get into office on getting something done about this. Obviously, my ultimate objective is to get these vaccines taken off the market, because I do not believe they are either safe nor effective.
Jeff.
All right.
Jeff.
Well, one of the things is that, Tom, make sure that you get my phone number if we don't already have it. And that way, when I get there, we can start that immediately, because I don't want to hesitate any longer than that. And then one of the things that I'm excited about is that anybody and everybody, all they have to do is say that they're affiliated with Dave. When they get to Washington, D.C., they can come in and they will be brought in and stuff. And I look forward to meeting them and stuff. So that's kind of a privilege that the Dave Weinbaum Show, you just say that, and my staff will know to bring you up and talk with me and make sure that I get with you before you leave.
You're too kind. Bill.
A lot of damage has been done to America the 4 years of Biden. A lot of people died from the COVID jab taking it. A lot of people's lives were destroyed. Their health was taken away from them. There's a lot of, I think, atrocities to the Constitution that took place too. I appreciate you guys, what you're doing, and you're there and speaking up. And I just think that it's our job to fight against something like that ever happening again in our country.
All right. Well, we're bringing it. We're in our last minute. We got about 48 seconds to go. And I just want to thank you guys for putting up with the technical difficulties we had, and for Tom staying over, because I wanted you guys to meet. And if I had known, I would have pushed you together anyways. But I didn't want to change anything because I hadn't talked to you in a year, Tom. So I'm glad that you guys are going to get together. And Jeff, I have things going down my back, hearing that I have some kind of sway for people to talk to you now that you're going to be I can't even describe it. Bill, thank you so much.
Man, Dave.
Next week's
I'll
show.
be back
Next Thursday.
Next Thursday with a show. Thank you.
Thursday, cool.
Thursday.